All right, I would like to officially call to order the Tuesday, May 7th meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And as always, we will start with a roll call. I am Brian Garrity.
Hello, I'm Jeff Bryan.
Emily Winter.
William Payne.
Kit McNamara.
Laura Stevenson. Rebecca Longbaugh.
Excellent. First up this evening, and Scott, the first four are yours. Is it all right if we open them all at once?
I think for sure that makes sense.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, in that case, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Scott Goddard regarding the proposed driveway improvement located at 21 Century Mill Road. Public meeting to begin this evening. The Bolton Conservation Commission will also now continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Sam Labry of Goddard Consulting regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home and septic system on Lot 3, Century Mill Road. Public meeting to begin now this evening as well. The Bolton Conservation Commission will also continue the public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Sam Labry of Goddard Consulting regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home and septic system on Lot 4, Century Mill Road. Public meeting to begin now this evening. And at the same time, the Bolton Conservation Commission will also continue the public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for determination of applicability submitted by Sam Labry of Goddard Consulting regarding the proposed grading associated with the construction of a single-family home and septic system located at Lot 2, Century Mill Road. The public meeting to begin this evening. Now. Hi.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. So it's been a while since we've had this before you guys. I think it was either winter or fall. We decided to postpone to the springtime because there was a request for additional information that was seasonally sensitive. So there, basically, I don't have new information regarding the plans or anything like that since our last hearing. The only thing that we've dealt with is your agent and myself evaluating the isolated depression areas to look for characteristics of breathing amphibians and whatnot. So I've looked at it a couple of times. I know that Rebecca has as well. Basically here there's a little pocket of water that develops in the springtime here, and then when it rains heavily, that puddle fills this to within a few inches deep, but then it responds very rapidly to the rain. So if it rains, it fills, and then it's very coarse gravel material, so it drains very quickly as well. And there was no indications in any inspections of anything that would support a certification criteria for burn pool creatures in there. You do see some, when it rains out, green frogs or whatever will hop around in there and things like that. And then also in here, in this depression, there was this an isolated puddle that develops here and here. And all these are within the order of a few inches deep, maybe 2 to 6 inches. But during the peak breeding season, because we did the certification of the pool over here for the other one, so we track pretty carefully with the breeding season. These areas were very close to dry during that part of the season. They've now have more water in them now than they did 3-4 weeks ago because of the rains that we've had in the last 2 weeks. But then now with the leaves popping out, already that water is going away. So yes, there's areas that get water in response to rain, but it's not, in my opinion, long enough and sustained enough to create the necessary conditions for certification. I don't know if your agent would like to add to those observations.
No, I mean, I didn't see egg masses the few times I've been out. I didn't look for caddis fly casings or anything like that, but that's typically something you see when it's more dry. There were insects, but there weren't anything indicative of a vernal pool specifically. in terms of seeing anything like fairy shrimp or something to that nature, that would be a clear indicator. Again, I didn't see any of that. There were obviously amphibians in the area, and it is obviously a little bit deeper now than it's been, but it's just about 3 areas. It's the closest side of that where it states lot 2, the back side of that lot 2, the small pocket area, and then over on the proposed lot 4, closer to the rear, where am I? The rear, or the northern side of that proposed lot. But, so that, as far as the potential vernal pool, that's what I saw or rather didn't see. And that's, if we're going off that basis, that's what we're going off of. Certainly vernal pool species though, and amphibians, they're not used every single year. They migrate from upland to these areas to breed, and they go back. If you do studies or look at habits of these species, some use the same pool every year, some don't. So it's likely, if it is a vernal pool, that you would see at least one of those indicator species there. But the times I was out there, I can't confirm.
There's a certified pool right about here as well.
On the Boy Scout property.
Mhm. Yeah, and we did submit, it's not part of this application, but we did submit the certification paperwork, by the way, for that other pool over, or
Yes,
whatever
I
number,
know
whatever
about
number
that.
it is, so. They're gonna be looking for a COC on that, situation.
Yeah, that's something we'll do about later.
So the 3 applications, this one, there were 4 applications. One was the application just for the driveway.
Yeah.
Okay, and the driveway was designed in a way on this plan with all a pervious pavement concept. In order to, basically there's a compacted gravel driveway right now.
Yeah.
So it would be paved, but paved with porous asphalt to allow the water to go through the asphalt as opposed to running off of the asphalt, which would be, in my estimation, an improvement of the gravel condition that's out there right now and minimize any tree impacts. We wouldn't have to then build crushed stone swales on the edges or anything. It would just be at grade, very kind of integrated into the natural environment that's there and preserving, the trees along the edges of the driveway. So that's that application, and we had held off on the planning board review of that because they wanted feedback from your board as well. So it's almost like they wanted the commission to opine first on it as well. And then the lot 2 application, this one here was just an RDA because it was, the only work proposed within a buffer zone was just relocating the shed out in the back. It was a very minimal amount of work. That's the lot.
Right.
The furthest along.
Right, and that's the
this
shed, is
one.
that the shed that borders the suspected vernal pool, right? Is that the one that's?
Yeah.
Correct.
So the pool itself kind of comes like that, right? In the back corner of the shed's like right on the, and somebody's dug down on the sides of what was the pool. Looks like somebody's dug that out.
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure where that one was.
And
Just, I
then,
think that was more of the holdup on it, was
correct.
we wanted to see the suspected vernal pool. If I'm remembering, we asked to see the suspected vernal pool drawn onto the plans, right?
Correct.
And all the offsets to meet the suspected vernal pool.
Correct.
Okay. And those aren't what we have tonight, right?
Well,
These are the same
No, nothing
plans
new's been
that got
submitted.
submitted before, right?
That's right.
And we had asked
Yeah.
to say, you need to resubmit the plans with what we had as suspected vernal pools.
Correct.
You also
Okay.
requested at a previous meeting to provide an alternate analysis for lot 3 specifically, but for anything that's within the 100-foot buffer or the adjacent upland resource area.
Yeah,
So in
that's
addition
all-
to those areas.
But I mean, it's good to reacquaint ourselves with the project,
Yeah.
but I remember going through these plans.
Yep.
And I remember that's what the holdup was, is we said, that's a suspected vernal pool,
Right.
we need to see, and I think that was what, was it planning board or ZBA? Whoever you said was waiting for us.
Planning board.
Right, they weren't waiting for us, we had said, we ruled saying, according to our bylaws,
Right.
it's a suspected vernal pool,
Right.
we need to see new plans.
Right.
We never got until Well, we still haven't gotten the new
Right,
plans.
so.
I'm just curious with the plan, if they're waiting for us, we already,
No,
we clearly said we're waiting for
Right.
this.
So,
This isn't anything new.
right, so
Okay.
the new is that, was to resolve whether or not we,
Had,
right,
we decided there was a
the
vernal
other-
pool
right. So now that we have had that opportunity to review it,
to go and look.
right, I'd like to
Okay.
continue on with these plans.
So I think two points here. One point being, we still haven't received an alternative analysis for lot.
Correct. That's right.
So, second point of that also is back to those PVP areas.
Right,
So no, we didn't see anything. But I have documentation that that was previously disturbed. And what I pointed out, and I believe the commission agreed with me, was you need to include that disturbed area and what work was done
mhm,
in a, either amend the narrative and include it, or file again as an after the fact, because right now, with your delineation,
mhm,
whether they're resource areas that someone's dug up
mhm.
or not, they're at least within the buffer zone, and you clearly, or someone has clearly done work within that area. And we asked for that work to be included, and it wasn't.
Right.
So we went,
so
we
I can
looked
re-
at one thing,
Mhm.
but there was like 3 or 4 things mentioned at the same meeting that have sort of been ignored and put on the back burner.
Right, and so now that we are reactivating kind of the discussion,
Mhm.
I think it's appropriate to include those things in there. So
Okay.
I can now work on doing that part of it. But really, I just wanted to
You're-
get back.
Wasn't there some-
You're looking for a decision of, do we still consider a suspected vernal pool or not, right? I mean, that's kind of what,
Now that we have been able to.
because according to, I mean, as of now, it's a suspected vernal pool. That was the last thing that we came out. We haven't changed that at all. So is that what you're asking, is for us to consider and discuss and vote if we still consider a suspected vernal pool, or if we don't think it's a vernal pool anymore? Is that what you're asking tonight? It sounds like that's what you're asking,
Sense to do
right?
that, because that would then
All right.
drive how we move,
All right.
move forward.
I mean, that would seem to make sense. I mean, that's a big question to answer first, because so many things will really draw off
Sure.
that, right? I haven't been out there in a year. I know Rebecca went out, and I really appreciate your report. I think with this project, it makes sense if anybody else can find the time, if we can set a date to try to get out and take a look and see where everything is here in relation to, and especially if it's within the next week or so, and give everything a chance to drain, and get down to what kind of a normal level would be, but it would seem like that's really, it's hard for us to discuss anything tonight because we don't have new plans, right? So everything still stands. Nothing until we determine whether that's a vernal pool or not. But as of now, it's still a suspected vernal pool. We can vote on changing that tonight, but personally, I would strongly suggest everyone go back out there. I'd like to take another look at it. It's not something I would vote on
I
without
think
going
that-
out
I
into
think
the
that
field.
makes sense.
May I make a suggestion?
Go
So
ahead.
since we've had issues trying to collectively get the entire commission out on site visits, and that's no fault of anyone's, would it be, I don't want to impose any, privacy discrepancies on the adjacent property or anything like that, but, would it be fine if the commission, when they found time, just went out there at reasonable times of day, so that we're not all trying to schedule it, because it doesn't seem that there's a date and time that works for everyone collectively, and I think that's what we've been running into.
Yeah.
Does that, I mean.
I thought because that was our intent of this
Correct.
afternoon, we
Right.
tried to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Right, and people have jobs, I mean, that's it, that's the
Oh, yeah.
thing, afternoon, everybody has work, or runs their own businesses, depending. And then, half the time I can get out there, but now at least we're late at night, I mean, we're light a little bit later.
Yep.
So I don't know if we can try to organize like a 6 o'clock or a 5:30 or 6:30, or if there's a day or a date that works.
Well, I don't have a problem, occasionally I have a problem
Yeah.
out there, but I can go, if I can get 2 days' notice.
So whenever,
Yeah,
because I don't need you to stay late, depending, but, if the rest of
We
us
can go
find a
late.
date,
Yeah, that's fine.
hopefully,
Morning.
because, especially with the map,
I
morning,
mean, I can go mornings only.
I could do a morning too.
I can do morning too, so.
I could
I
definitely.
would
do
like
a
to
morning.
6:30 at night. And
So-
then we do two trips.
That's what I was gonna
Why
say,
don't-
why don't, maybe we'll do,
Why don't we decide right now on a time, on a morning time and date, and an afternoon time and date, and then both the abutters and Scott's aware of it,
yeah, and we
and
can
then
confirm
we
or,
can figure that out.
what's a good night for you? Like, a day of the week wise. Thursday night's gonna be bad for me, so, but any other nights?
Most evenings are good, 6:30.
So it has to be before the 21st, preferably before
Yeah.
Thursday. And the reason why I say preferably before Thursday, so that if there's any feedback that's necessary to
Yeah,
provide
you can-
before the next meeting, I need, their submittal deadline is Thursday at noon.
Okay. Do you want to shoot for the 13th, Monday?
Okay.
Monday the 13th.
And would that possibly work
At
All right.
6:30?
at 6:30?
It's much rather than, yeah.
I was gonna say, it's nice having light at night, all of a sudden.
That's election day, is that a
No,
conflict? or
that's
anything?
fine.
Shouldn't-
And
yeah,
then, and then we
stay
can
up
work
all
on
night.
pairing,
We do mornings, or we're just doing an
So-
evening?
It's a morning one and an afternoon.
Okay.
So the evening one will be the 13th, it sounds like. Monday,
Time 6:30 on
6:30.
site.
Yep, so the property adjacent, well, the same property currently is 21 Century Mill Road, but as you drive in to the right.
Yeah. the map.
Don't drive all the way into the
Is it
property.
Century Mill?
Yes. And then for morning time,
Anytime before 11.
Sleep late.
so what time?
8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
on that same day, is what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you do 9:30?
Oh, yeah. I can do
9:30?
9:30.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can do
anytime.
9:30.
9:30 in the morning on
9:30
Monday,
and 6:30.
13th.
So there'll be two that day,
9:30.
9:30 and 6:30.
So there will be 2 site visits of the Conservation Commission for the PVPs on the property of 21 Century Mill Road, not going to the home
6:30,
though.
right?
For the existing single-family home. The afternoon will be at 6:30 PM on Monday the 13th, 2019, and I should have said that backwards. The other site visit will be 9:30 AM, Monday the 13th, 2019. Is that good for the commission? Scott, is that good?
And so I don't have any new information to discuss beyond that, so I would request a continuation to next week.
For all 4?
Mhm.
There was some discussion, I remember, about the trees in the driveway too.
So we had all
Depending,
surveyed,
yeah.
and then by using a porous asphalt concept, it allows the preservation of as many of those as possible, and most all of them.
If I remember, regrading the gravel would have required swales, right?
Correct.
And that would, yeah, it would have widened the
Correct.
base, so it was an attempt to bring it in
Correct.
too.
So the next meeting, everyone's okay with the 21st?
Yes,
Okay,
all right,
so Tuesday.
okay, so we throw them all up first? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to say.
There's nothing else, right? No, but
Oh.
time-wise, right, we don't have anything else scheduled yet, May?
We do, we have 2, so that would bring us to 7:30,
Yeah.
would be the first, so
I'll do
20.
them every 10 minutes, because we'll probably keep opening all 4 and talking about all 4.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep,
And it's the 21st, right?
yeah, 21st.
Okay. Can I ask, we're probably gonna continue this until our next meeting to give us a chance to get out there, but if there's anybody here to comment on this project here tonight that has any comments, questions, or anything specifically they think we should look at while we're out there, please feel free. And just, if you could just do your name and address, yeah, please.
Richard Davis, 185 Wilson Road, so I'm in a butter. I read online that if water stands on a piece of property for 4 months out of the year, and they don't have to be consecutive months, that's considered to be wetlands. Do you know if this is true, or is this something, a rule of thumb that you guys go by?
I would have to look at that, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I can only go on my property because no trespassing signs have been put up. I've taken pictures from my property of water, certainly in the area of Lot 2, puddles and reflections, through most of the winter. And now you can't really get a reflection because grass is growing up through the water. But if that's something that you would like me to send to you, I'm more than happy to do so.
Yeah, if you could send me that source that you have, that would be good.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments right now? Alright. That's it. I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for, for 21 Century Mill Road until our next public meeting, May 21st at 7:30 PM. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. So continued, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 3, Century Mill Road, until our next public hearing, May 21st at 7:40 PM. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So continued. I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 4, Century Mill Road, until our next public meeting, May 21st at 7:50 PM. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd also like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 2, Century Mill Road, until our next public meeting, May 21st at 8:00 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So continued.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're probably way ahead on that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Next time, don't let us do
Yeah.
Messages today.
When did you leave them?
Oh, late,
I was out
3:30.
in the field between 3 and 5 o'clock, so.
I sent you a couple messages that are germane to this.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will send. Thank you.
Hi, Jim. Jim, how you doing?
So,
We already have them. Or are we?
no, well, we're not even close yet.
We have 35 minutes to go.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking we were gonna run.
that's why I threw in the 10 minutes, everyone.
Just to remind me, what we decided that he was gonna put down,
Yeah, we have to
rather than
play it.
grading the gravel road, he was gonna dig it out.
No, that was never resolved, yeah, there were many things proposed too, because we had asked the question too, if you're going to dig out and pave half the driveway, why don't you pave the whole driveway? Which never kind of got answered. Well, it got answered that it would be more aesthetically pleasing to be half and half, I believe was his answer.
I thought that there was some discussion, and I know we probably should.
Yeah, no, we really should not.
All right, later.
Save it, save that thought, write it down.
So we can do minutes, we can do the vote for 31 Ashaway.
Yep,
Or we can do the vote for 147 Long Hill Road.
we'll do all three probably.
We can do all three. The other thing, we can come for coffee, come back.
Duncan's run quick.
The other thing was we received a piece of mail from CSX Transportation, Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc., providing us information on their 2019 yearly operational plan for right-of-way management. And basically stated they will send if we request an electronic copy or hard copy of that. But it's a significant document, so I don't blame them for not sending it right away. But is that something the commission would be interested in looking at?
Where's the reservoir?
It's a small corner on the corner of town that abuts Clinton and Berlin. It's the railroad.
They're talking about putting Roundup in there again, something like that?
Yeah, whatever they're using now. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if they're trimming along with that and doing other things.
So when is this, can you just repeat that?
So it's
Yeah.
just the yearly operational management plan for
Okay.
the railroad, basically.
Okay.
They don't mention if there's major changes, do they?
No, I can ask, but that's probably something that they would
Want to?
state, in a
Yeah.
way. They'd probably be more willing to say, here, if you'd
Here's
like
the
to copy
800
your
pages.
Find the
changes."
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can ask.
So do we give comments on it? What is, or is it just for information?
So last year, we asked them to do an RDA, but because they're a utility and they're within the right of way, it's sort of a nice to do, not a
Mhm.
requirement on their part.
Okay.
So that's sort of saying, we can provide comment,
I don't
but
see any reason to then, right?
unless it's substantially changed, yeah.
General maintenance,
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
Unless they're putting in some other type of transportation, that's when I would see we would
Right,
be
Hopefully.
gonna provide comment.
yeah.
Um,
So.
So I can request the document if anyone's interested in reviewing it, or if you want me to review it, or you're all set.
So what does the document have?
It is the management plan, so last year it was spraying, it was trimming back some of the overhanging branches, it was repairing anything they need to repair infrastructure-wise, that's currently existing. But it was really more last year, what chemicals or what they were using to treat things along the
Have they
railroad.
changed what they use for chemicals? I mean, have they gone away from Roundup and stuff like that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Sounds like you wanna read it.
Okay, so I'll
You can
get
say that.
I'll get an electronic copy
No,
for
it's
it.
not for you, it'd be fascinating to read.
Okay.
But there's nothing, even if you say we don't want you to use Roundup,
They could use it.
well,
Use
our
anything
hands are
they
tied.
want, right?
They may be timed and changed.
Right.
Probably
Never
not.
Maybe.
How much of the railway is in Bolton?
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just crosses
50
the.
feet or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you, how much is it?
I mean, if you drive through Hudson right now, you drive through Hudson, I think on Route 62, there's a big sign, come pick up your bottled water today, right?
That's right.
I think 40% of the wells have been shut down.
Hudson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's true.
yeah.
Mhm.
But not because of Roundup.
Yeah. So I'll
Anyways,
send you an
maybe
electronic
I'll take a
copy.
look at it.
It
I'll
can't
see
hurt.
what
I'd like to talk
if
about
I
it a little bit.
will.
Um,
You have no tenants.
But wasn't there something last year that said even if we opposed it, they still could do it because it's a right of way or something? I sort of remember this discussion.
Not outright, but that's what it boils down
Yeah.
to, basically.
We can suggest, but
It's more
Yes.
courtesy that does apply.
Exactly.
And it's not very site-specific, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, these are the, like, methods we use all along the, like, it might be in your town, might not, but
Mhm.
some variation of this, that, and the other.
anyway.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. All right, so did everybody have a chance to read through the minutes? Did everybody catch something like Jeff Bryant did?
She's
No one
putting
else,
typos in.
no one else read them.
Backside here, on the backside of zones. Everybody go out and take a look at the new bridge?
I still don't understand where it is.
Right across, right at, if you drive into where environmental pools is gonna be, and
You
you
have to
look
go
off to your
in there?
left.
Okay, you drive in
Just
first.
stop right there at the beginning before you go crashing through their gate and look off to the left.
Yeah.
You'll see it down there.
Okay, but where's the trail at? Like, where do you go in?
Rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake.
It's like a long,
But do you have to go into the environmental pools
No.
driveway?
No.
no, no,
No,
no.
no, no.
So that's just how they accessed it to do
Okay,
it, we received permission.
okay, got
If
it,
you go, you can go in through any of the rattlesnake trailheads,
okay.
but it's at the southernmost,
Right.
southwesternmost side.
Western.
To there.
Yeah, so what they're looking to eventually do is pop out and cross 117 maybe.
Maybe. You know where the old mill thing is?
Yeah,
It's, the
And
brook is
then
right
highlight
there.
that
Yeah.
historic
The
site.
bridge is right there.
okay.
So
So where do you, is there like a trailhead over here?
there's no trailhead there.
No.
Okay.
There's only trailhead.
Okay.
You can park and jump
Okay.
down, but it's rather
Got
steep.
it, got it, got it, got it, okay. But this would be future expansion is coming across,
Yeah,
that's
that's what
why.
they're hoping.
Got it.
Technically,
Okay,
there
that makes
is
sense.
down by,
Towards the end?
yep, towards the end,
See the
but
pictures?
it's so
We put the
wet
pictures up
the
on the
majority of the
I
time
saw your
that-
pictures, yeah,
I
I
think,
drove by there the other day.
You have to look down.
someone uses a
I
horse
hiked
through there
before.
and it's dry,
It's
but
like, I've gone
I've gotten
to the
emails
run.
saying that they can't because it's
Yeah,
too wet.
too wet.
Is it connected to that then?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, so we don't have gone.
Well, no, it's in that's part of the
It's
rattlesnake, but you have to go
brand new.
off to the, when you go up, you go up this way instead of that way. That's the best way. It's this way instead
Go off
of
this way instead
so
of
that way. You take a
Oh,
left.
rock.
You
You
never
end up
get
going
lost.
down there and it's there.
Yeah, you
The
won't
big
get lost.
tree.
Yeah.
You won't get
By the
lost.
big tree.
Just listen to my direction.
There's a rock over there.
So
Take a right
trustworthy.
on the rock.
Yeah. The tree?
Actually,
The
there
tree.
is a tree that looks like
Like a dragon.
dragon or something out there.
Somebody said it looked like a horse, somebody looks like a dragon, but looks like something from Game of Thrones, but it's not a Starbucks coffee.
Does anybody have any questions, problems, issues, corrections for the minutes?
Is this supposed to be a typo? Is that supposed to be 31 Century Mill?
It's supposed to be 31 Nashaway.
Nashua at the
Yeah.
top.
So it's supposed to be 31 Nashway up here,
So you,
right?
Jeff, are you making a motion to make an amendment to the minutes?
Can you make a motion to correct the minutes to 31 Nashway as opposed to 31 Century Mill?
So noted. Second? All those in favor? Aye. So amended. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amended minutes for our April 23rd, 2017 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are we taking roll call votes for 147? Or is that just a?
No, go with it, right?
It's not in here, is it?
Yep. It's the last one.
Yeah. We'll go last first, yeah. All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now entertain a motion to impose reasonable fees for the employment of an outside consultant to be engaged by the Conservation Commission for the specific expert services deemed necessary by the Commission at this public meeting on May 7, 2019, in order to come to a decision on whether the wetland replication area has been completed in compliance with the order of conditions referenced on the plans associated with, excuse me, associated with DEP file number 112-620 regarding the project located at 147 Long Hill Road, Common Driveway. These reasonable fees shall be the responsibility of the applicant, who will be notified in writing of the consultant, the amount of fee to be charged, and a request for payment of fee in its entirety. This request is pursuant to the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, and associated regulations 4.03, consulting fees. Do I hear a second for this motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's try that again, but with something different. The public hearing regarding the notice of intent for 31 Nashaway Road was closed at the April 23rd, 2019 meeting. Therefore, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now entertain a motion to issue a denial for the proposed project referenced under DEP file number 112-677 regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home and associated septic system within the 100-foot buffer zone and 200-foot riverfront area located at 31 Nashaway Road, map 7.B, parcel 62.
And I would say just due to the findings drafted in the special conditions.
Due to the findings noted under the special conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
findings document, not, sorry,
That's all right.
have to include that in our cheat sheet.
We've got a few minutes.
Yeah, this is stuff that we
Yeah,
just.
but
Did you have to reference
talked
this,
about
or
last
you can
meeting.
read the findings? So I would say, denial according to findings as drafted, 1 through
Relative.
8,
Huh?
under the local
Relative.
bylaw.
That's,
Well, actually, apply to both, so I would just say the findings was
As
As
drafted. Ready?
Ready.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now entertain a motion to issue a denial for the proposed project referenced under DEP file number 112-677 regarding the proposed construction of a single-family home and associated septic system within the 100-foot buffer zone and 200-foot riverfront area located at Lot 31, Nashaway Road, map 7.B, parcel 62. This denial in accordance to the findings as drafted, numbers 1 through 8. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay. There's that list. February letter of support?
I'll give it to you in the morning.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm actually really,
Okay. Send it to me. I'll send it to everyone.
I don't know if there's a lot.
Not bad.
It's gonna be really good.
No typos.
Well, do you want to give a brief summary of what the letter is about, and the commission can take a roll call vote?
For what, right now?
Well, if they feel comfortable, but if you want to give a
Let me
summary.
give you the letter, take a look
Okay,
at it,
that's
I'll
fine.
talk about it next week, see,
Okay.
see if you want to edit it at all.
Any updates on the retaining wall? Removal / restoration work at 4042 Hudson Road?
She is not here right now. So,
We'll save that for later.
is that the railroad ties?
No, it's a stone
Yes.
wall. Look,
Down by West Pond.
those are rocks, right?
Um,
Stone wall by the,
This is an oldie, right?
Yeah.
Is this was the railroad ties that they were gonna replace?
Yes.
Okay,
This was from almost last year now,
yeah,
and we
Last fall,
approved
I
it and
think.
just said provide us with the information prior to construction.
okay.
so did we get that?
That was like last fall, I
I
think,
know,
late
but-
summer last fall. Yeah, we reviewed it and approved it. It was just they were looking to, replace the railroad ties were all rotted. They were,
Right.
they were in the buffer zone, right? So it was just as minimal disturbance as possible type
Right.
of thing.
And they were going, once the project was approved, they were going out, they were going out to bid, or basically to see who would do it, how they would do it, so whomever they
Yeah.
hired would need to
No.
come in and be provided with that information.
Can't start really anything.
Well, updates on Keys Farm,
Please.
not to look at that. Do you wanna do updates to Keys Farm, or are you fine with me, just,
You can certainly do it if you would like my input on anything, I'm more than happy to jump up there, but
Okay. So basically, we've been doing site visits. There was a secondary washout a few weeks ago. Instead of, I mentioned it at the last meeting, instead of issuing a cease and desist or an enforcement order, we wanted to be able to have the developer continue work on site, but focus on the restoration and remediation, not restoration, remediation areas of some of the cleanup. Since then, they've been able to receive some correspondence from the property owner or the abutter across the road, who owns the actual property that Danforth Brook runs over. So she's now working with the developer to try and move forward with that, but there's some conditions that she's imposing, which is between them, it has nothing to do with us, that they need to iron out prior to actually starting work, but they've been keeping us in the loop with that. We were out on site last Wednesday, I think, and there seemed to be some miscommunication or confusion about what was expected in terms of releasing other permits as they were being applied for. And we basically ironed that out and said a weekly meeting is going to be necessary to make sure that that communication line stays open between the site manager, the town planner, myself, Ducharme Dillis, their engineers, and the property owner, just so everyone's on the same page. There's no question about what needs to be done. They were required to clean up an area that was dry at the time. It won't be now, so hopefully that's done as an area that isn't necessarily in a wetland area, or it's right at the edge of a wetland area, but again, an area that was dried out enough that we saw that it wasn't going to have an impact, where that's been one of the major issues, is it's been too wet, we can't get out there, we don't want to disturb it further. We do some cleanup and then you don't expand the cleanup area to the outer edges, so now when it rains, it just washes and it pools, so it's not expanding the area, but it's just filling in the area that's already been cleaned. That's another reason too why it was suggested at the engineer's suggestion to have a weekly meeting or site visit, to just make sure everyone knows there's things being done, but it's just weather-related problems. On top of, we also stressed being proactive about various erosion control measures, adding more than what's necessary, and they've proactively done that. And there was visible evidence of that on site as well. They've put in a few check dams and have stated that they're gonna be checking those after significant rain events. So,
I had asked about seating at the retention ponds. At
seating,
the last
yes.
meeting, is that something that we could get the
Yep.
ball rolling on?
So that was something the town planner actually brought up, I brought up, and it was suggested to the town planner. She suggested something with a little bit of tack, because the concern was if they seed it, we've just had these washout type rainstorms, it's just gonna wash down and not take hold. So we were told that that's what they're working towards. We'll see on Thursday.
It's great weather to see them now.
Yep. And we've also changed the date, just to note, from Wednesday to Thursday, because it worked better for most of the parties, so.
We'll be ready soon.
I know everything else people may want to comment on. Any control committee updates?
I mean, the bridge was impressive.
Right on.
What's
There's a big tree,
next?
there's a big tree down in Fifeshire, I went to talk about.
Where?
Fifeshire?
So the new trail that goes up mountain,
To Peach Hill?
it's at the top of the hill right before you drop down to the wood bridge.
Yeah, it's right up there.
And it's
Was it the one
it's
that's
not
been
one you
leaning?
can just flip, huh?
Was it the one that's been like leaning over?
I don't know, I hadn't been out there for a while.
Hudson.
It's
So
a
that
big
trail-
one, it's a
Big tree.
big, it's like an 18-inch diameter tree.
Yeah, so that trail's an easement across private property.
Yeah,
So what either I'll do or Trails Committee will assist with or do our, what is it, senior tree?
Senior
surgeon?
tree surgeons, yes.
We'll just basically cut the walkway out of it, or a
Yeah.
little bit beyond it.
yeah.
I'll go
I'll
check.
let-
It's on the stone wall, like it fell onto the stone wall too.
Okay, I'll let them know.
I meant to,
The property owner, Jeff's here.
You'll let the
Trust
property
me.
owner know.
Yeah,
Okay.
just in case they just don't care, we cut it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't see why they would care.
No, I
It's
can't
just cutting
either.
it by, the trail is like 4 feet wide there.
Have you guys both anything else recently?
Yeah, but we're out on site on Andy Moore with,
Oh, Eagles.
Nick, what's his last name? Nick Matt, and his father Greg, to figure out where the new bridges are going across. So we're out there trying to figure out what to do. It's gonna be a 16-foot bridge. I guess they've come by and raided the trailer to get
Yep.
materials. And then they're going back and raid the trailer again for a little more materials, because they've gotta sort of raise it.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready to do, I think they,
Doing a kiosk.
huh? Well, the kiosk is in the works, that's different. They haven't
Yeah.
put the plans together for the kiosk. But they did want to put it on town, you know, that, there must be where they wanted to put it, I think it was town land that they want to put it on. You know,
Yeah,
it's by the road.
conservation land, yeah.
But isn't it town, well, whatever.
Are
I
you
said,
saying that right away?
yeah, I said to make sure that they talked to DPW
Yeah.
to make sure it was in the right spot.
Yep.
So Nick's gonna do that. Other than that, you know, there's a big tree down there, Matt and Greg said they'd clean that up. And they're gonna get a bunch of Boy Scouts and all the stuff out in the woods. I said that, you know, the trail committee,
Yeah.
it's wonderful things to do, get the Boy Scouts to do that. Because it's a half-mile in.
Right.
Yeah, that's a nice
So
little.
it's a nice little hike with them with
Yeah.
a 4x4,
Charging brush and everything
16-foot pole on their shoulders, you know? It'd be good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, builds character.
So, but that's basically the only thing we've got new. Now we're looking to find out whether, last March and April, this is May now, right? Last March and April, there were a lot of trees down. There doesn't seem to be that many.
No, well, we had the 3 big storms at the
Yeah.
end of March last year.
Other than that, I don't remember what's it. The meeting is next Monday because I think they cancel, usually the first Monday of the month, but they're gonna make it next Monday because the first Monday of the month was town meeting. So next Monday, we get to go, and anybody who wants to come along to the trail committee meeting, be my guest. It's gonna be pizza from what I understand.
Monday would be the site visit?
Huh?
Monday, same time as the site visit?
No,
Yeah.
6:30 PM, well,
Yeah.
yeah, it is, so,
I thought the meeting was at 7.
7, starts at 7, the meeting
Yeah.
starts at 7,
Yeah,
you know, so,
your site visit's half hour before that.
yeah, so we'll just go, oh, yeah, okay, fine,
What time
Stop
is
in
it?
for pizza.
Huh?
Just get there late and have pizza.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all right, it never seems to start on time at that meeting. 7 o'clock is just basically a suggestion. By the time other people get there.
Not really.
Well,
Majority of people are there at like 7.
it's still a suggestion, and it gets really going at about 10 minutes into it.
Yeah.
And if Gordon Taylor was there, it would last a little longer, but he's in Scotland right now. Anyway, enough, I've said enough about that. I'll meet you at 6:30 there, and then we can go get pizza for supper. Thanks, sir. Conservation agent.
What?
We're close. 5 more minutes.
Oh, there will be a wildflower walk
Yeah, I saw that.
on the 19th, led by Elizabeth, I'm gonna butcher her last name, apologies, Backdonis, yep. And she is very knowledgeable about wildflowers, and it'll be along the Bob Horton Loop.
And where is that? Is that the one
It's about an
downtown?
hour long. The one on the Rattlesnake property by Trailhead 1, I believe. to over by the limestone trailhead.
Where's this tree?
And it's not necessarily
Here.
a hike, it's a walk to look at the
Stop.
flowers. It was specified.
Yeah, so
My
it's,
daughter expressed.
it's just,
Oh, good.
it's like, you know where
She's
it
going.
it goes
by
up
Africa.
and then it drops down and goes over the brook.
I'll be attending.
You'll
So
be
here's the
focused.
parking area, right? Parking area's here.
Mhm.
So it's past the dam and up, right? Oh, yeah,
Yes.
that's a good sized tree, but it's past the,
It's-
this is coming
it's
up this
the-
hill.
Yeah, you're going up the hill, yep. And as you, this is right at the top of the hill,
Right.
you go down and there's the
Right,
wood bridge over the stream.
Yep.
And then
Okay.
it goes back up after that.
Get the boys out there with
It's,
the chainsaws.
it's probably a half
chops.
mile in.
Mm.
Senior trees, we're missing one though.
I know, it's not the same. We also had a successful turnout for our chapter 61 talk on Saturday, which is part of our greater workshop series. The next is August 4th, which is a Sunday, and it will be specifically about conservation restrictions. But this past Saturday, we had Laura Dooley, our surface forester, property owner Don Vespa, and Sudbury Valley trustees working together to talk about a specific wood lot in town, walk it, talk about the management plan, the history behind it, why they chose to do it. And we had some attendees ask some really nice questions, so.
How many people? And then the first one was the
Just a handful. The first one, we had an exponential amount of people. For this one, we quite literally had a handful. No.
I ran
It's
into John
intimate.
Sunday after your talk.
Yeah,
and
What
we
did
talked
he
for a
think
long
of it?
time. No, he liked it.
Good.
He's interested, yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It was nice to hear the history of how what his family thought of it, why they went into it,
He told
what
me
their
the whole
plan
history.
was. Huh?
He told me the whole history.
Yeah, he was telling us.
Back to like 1890.
Yeah. And the fire that came across. and-
We were at the pond, the state pond.
Yeah.
We started there.
Nice. Did you walk your rail bed?
Yes. And the dogs are running.
Everybody who wants to come, will get here.
Nice one. I'll look like
Sadly,
Pete's doing it.
All right, Pete.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed by Seth Donahoe on behalf of the applicant for the proposed removal of an existing garage with construction of a new garage in its place within the 100-foot buffer zone. The proposed project to be located at 670 Main Street. The public meeting to begin right now this evening. How are you?
Good, how are you? How are you guys?
Good.
to say it.
My name's Peter Pekowskis, I'm with Ducharme and Billis. So I'm here on behalf of Sean and Megan Duhane. So they're at 670 Main Street, which is they have the purple garage right across from the town hall, right as you go to the bottom of the hill there. So here's the wetlands in green here, 25-foot buffer zone in orange. Here's your 100-foot in red. The project involves removing the existing garage, which is shown here in red, and the new one is gonna be shown here in black. They're gonna hold the line in the front here, because due to zoning requirements, we can't move it closer to the road. The proposed garage would not create any closer impervious surface than what's already on the site, from like the existing stone patio and the shed as well, and it would only extend off the back about 5 feet. Shown here in blue is a storm drain from the bottom of town hall. There's a catch basin that comes across the road, and then currently right now it's just draining out, and it's just filled with road, sand, and debris and stuff, but we're proposing to clean that out. And when we talked about it at the sidewalk line, it was a stone riprap. But I guess have any questions?
I do not know this.
site visit, did I? Was I at 670? Yeah.
So just for the commission, is there a foundation currently? Are you keeping that same foundation, expanding upon it?
There's a stone foundation there now, it's kind of all like blown out in the back, so
And are-
it's gonna have to be completely redone. Cause
Okay.
right now, they can't park anything in the garage, it's just like wooden floors that are
So
collapsing. pretty
you're
much.
increasing the entire, even the base of it, 4 to
Yeah.
5 feet?
Yep,
Okay.
it's gonna have a foundation. Cause they're gonna be able to park in here, and then off to the side here, they wanna be able to park a car as well.
On top of that, culvert.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but you're
Retaining
leaving, you're
wall.
gonna leave that.
The culvert's gonna be on.
No, but I
top.
mean the stuff that's on top, wasn't it like a concrete
Yeah,
slab on top?
yeah, we're gonna leave that, yeah. It's like an old stone head wall. And then there's a concrete pipe that comes out and it's currently filled up with only like this much. It's able to exit.
Now, is this gonna have an understorage, or is it fill that's going in
I don't believe it's gonna have understorage.
It's gonna be a slab?
Yeah,
the slab?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Because it, I mean, it drops in the back.
Yeah.
How big is the garage?
24 by 24,
That's proposed.
proposed, yeah.
Do we have the size of the existing?
24 by 19.
19.
Yeah, 24 by 19. So they're just coming off the back to allow room for cars and a little bit of storage, to keep everything like out of the rain.
And this black line is where you gotta put, no, that black
Erosion
line, right?
control.
Oh, yeah,
That's
this is the
erosion control.
proposed erosion control
What are
area.
you proposing?
Right now, we're proposing a straw wattle.
So the foundation that's there right now goes to this point and it's getting blown up to this point.
Mhm.
Okay. That's why I was wondering if there's any kind of staying here and there's gonna be overhang on the backside, but there isn't.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh. Yeah, as far as I know, it's gonna be,
It's gonna be
yeah,
square.
square, yeah.
You get the contractor? You gonna do the work? No.
No,
He hasn't hired anybody yet to do the work?
I don't believe so, no.
What's behind the garage now in that area? Is that just lawn or?
Yeah, there's this faint line right here is a landscaped area with just some shrubs, and right now it's kind of slopes downhill, and it's all weeds and.
Yeah, it's a mess.
We had asked during the site visit, Brian, that they just maintain the stream as part of the project, so like,
Not the stream, the
This-
drainage, yeah.
this,
Oh, that-
this
yeah.
drainage is just a mess right now, there's like trash and leaves and stuff in
That's
it, so we
okay.
just asked that they maintain it and keep the flow going to the wetlands.
Yeah, it's pretty much road silt and trash coming all the way down to around this tree here, so, and we discussed not putting riprap all the way down to kind of let it naturally kind of drain down the hill there.
And once
you know.
it's cleaned up, it'll naturally vegetate and
Right.
Right.
what,
Oh, no.
right.
Yeah. Won't end
I've
up
cleaned
being
up the stream.
Japanese knotweed.
Oh, God, it's horrible.
Is anything else happening with, I'm just curious, anything happening with the house, right? This
Nothing.
is simply just the
It's
garage?
just the garage, yeah.
No surprise the
So it's the garage
garage
and
is
then
falling down
The
yet.
paved area, and they're not looking to put any fill in there, it's just paving over what's there?
I think they have to, because it slopes
Yeah,
down.
it slopes down, so this is that area that flows it goes downhill to the top of that culvert, so everything's running off of that anyway.
So they're
So
squaring it
they're
up
gonna-
with a retaining wall and then.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's a
already
retaining wall. Is there a
concrete, correct?
retaining wall there
We're
right
gonna
now?
have to
No.
bring it up though, because
Right
it
now, it's all
slopes
that
down.
impervious
Impervious
vegetation that kind of comes right down through.
Yeah, we see it all the time.
No, it's dirt there now,
Oh,
there's
it's dirt.
some plants in there and stuff, yeah.
Some invasive stuff or something like that, I don't know, it's,
Yeah, this is like a whole bunch of vines
Yeah.
going right up through here and then coming up the building.
right. Some ancient toys and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess my question is if, and I don't know what the commission's decision will be, but I'm looking at, I guess during construction, the prevention of migration of material, so obviously that would be reflected in the construction plan, but what methods would you be encouraging or proposing aside from just the straw wattles? Because that's beneficial, but just as you heard me say about another site that's much more significant in terms of earthwork being done there. But is there anything else that you would have on site, either stockpiled or proposed, specifically with that, I'm concerned about that drainage area, which probably sees high velocity, runoff, thank you, coming through there during large rain events. So if, I'm just now, because this is my thought process now, as we're getting more and more crazy rain events, how are you proposing to remediate that as everything's open?
Pete, can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
I think the important thing to understand on this is being that there's essentially walls at the back of the entirety of the excavation.
Yep.
And those have to go in place
First.
before they can do anything. So
Okay.
there's gonna be a dig down for a footing,
Mhm.
so there'll be a trench there. You'd be dealing with a very limited tributary area once even the forms are in place.
Okay, so it would definitely be though, that the retaining walls and, excuse me, the proposed concrete retaining wall and then the garage, whatever you're using for the foundation is put in place, so those forms are done before you're doing any filling. or
Yeah,
grading.
there'd be very limited exposed in the back, but I don't think there'd be an issue with specifying that silt fence
If you want
and
to
even straw bales need to be on site for bigger storm events when
Yeah.
that's exposed and.
I mean, if we wait until it's, if you wait, or the homeowner waits until it's dry to do it, that won't be a problem, obviously, but I'm just, like I said, I'm not really concerned about, excuse me, the garage area. I'm more concerned about
if stuff.
that retaining wall being in place, because that's coming from across the road
Mhm.
and on the roadway, not just from the lawn area or the vegetative stabilized area.
Nels, putting, putting the foundation in, is all being done from the top side?
It would have to be,
Okay,
Yeah.
no equipment down on the back side?
that's
I
fine,
mean,
that's,
I'm just,
I think just practically, that's the way it would have to happen, but if that needs to be specified, our plan does not, if the order does, then that, it makes total sense.
So
it's
basically a
just a tight
story
lot,
and a half garage.
just moving,
no?
doing anything.
It's,
got
well,
some-
in terms of finished height,
No, they have a floor in there, but does that floor sit on
2 stories.
it's on, some,
pilings or something? like that?
yeah, much older.
So what are you gonna do with, I mean, so,
It'd be a poured concrete wall,
okay, and then,
so there'd be a frost wall
And then
down
fill
below.
that in.
and then you're gonna fill that
Yeah.
in with
And then-
dirt
yeah.
and then pave on top of
Yeah.
that?
Correct.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean,
So
realistically.
the
you're
concrete
looking-
wall, just so I understand, the concrete wall would go in first, then you'd fill it up with dirt, and then you pour the slab,
Correct.
basically.
And so you'd have, during construction, you would have your footing level, and then there'd be basically a berm of some of the backfill
Right.
material. And the backfill material itself could be prone to erosion, but you're dealing with a very
Yeah.
skinny space, like 6 feet, 8 feet
And then
of
you're gonna,
exposed material.
and then that's gonna become a wall, and then you backfill that with dirt, and then you lay your slab on top of
Yeah.
that, and it'll
Yeah,
tie into that concrete wall, which will give it some security gap. So basically, there's not gonna be a lot of excavation there where we have to worry about where the dirt pile goes.
Yeah, they're not really taking any material out of
Yeah,
there.
I
They're
know,
just
I know. It's not, we
removing
got,
that,
some
yeah.
of those holes already there.
more than likely, they're gonna have to truck it.
Yeah, and so they just get rid of the debris as
Yeah.
it comes down.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that garage hasn't come down yet.
it's
but-
almost there.
Yeah, I know, in a week or so.
So sort of based off, backtracking off those points, so is there anywhere on site that you're temporarily proposing to stockpile material? Or you're quite literally going to have some sort of a vehicle there to be trucking soil away if there is any removal?
I think realistically, it would be an import of suitable structural fill.
Okay.
So they'll dig down, remove whatever's there.
Yeah.
Put the walls up, and then material's gonna have to go in
Right.
to that
Right.
void there.
So I guess during, and thank you for addressing that, but I guess during that time of unless, so I guess my question is twofold. And part of it's the commission, would it be mindful to make it a condition to say no stockpiling on site? Or would it be more mindful from your perspective to say, you know, during those times, stockpile on site, but because of everything's within the 100-foot buffer basically, and it is a relatively tight site. I would like the commission to certainly identify what areas are acceptable to temporarily stored if it's necessary, because then there's zero question
I'd say,
down the line.
I think practically there'd be no stockpiling,
Okay.
stockpiling of non-construction fill
Yeah.
outside of the actual work zone.
They can barely park 2 cars in the driveway.
When they're,
That's
when they're
fine.
digging
There's
for
nowhere
the
to put
footings,
it.
they're not gonna backfill with that around the footings?
They'll push it out to the side and they'll reuse it, they'll pull that back in, they'll reuse that, they won't take that off the site.
Okay, so that's our question, right? Where is that soil sitting?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be several days between excavation and pouring footings, so,
Well, they're gonna have some fences up around this.
right, but we were just the question was just brought
If
up
they were
about
gonna dig up
stockpiling
the
on
soil
site.
here,
There is
where would it
going to be
go?
some soil, they're not gonna truck off
Yeah, no.
So what
whatever
we
soil
say
they're
outside
excavating
of
for the footings, so.
50 feet or outside of,
I'd say
Like I
within
said-
a work week, if it's not going back into the hole in a work week, then it needs to be stockpiled appropriately. And that can either be with coordination with you guys or Rebecca, or it just needs to go off the site.
Well, if you
So-
take the garage down first, which you're gonna do, then there is a hole there, so anything that you dug along that form could go on that side of the,
Correct, yeah, that was
So
my
you don't
point.
have to
You're gonna
go-
have
You could
a-
bring it inside.
into where
Yeah,
the
yeah.
garage used to be,
So
as
you wouldn't have
opposed
to put
to
the material outside of it.
towards the,
okay, so keep it within,
Because this is already.
A big hole.
You can walk underneath this right now. and
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
you can- I wouldn't, but you can walk underneath there.
So basically, instead of putting the fill back here towards the
Bring it all
wetland,
in.
you bring it in
Suggesting
and put it in
putting
the
it in the
hole.
footprint?
Put the
Can you
footprint.
get the concrete poured if you pull it back inside your?
Yeah, it's just putting the dirt instead of on
inside
the
the
left side, put it on the
farm,
right
Yeah.
side. I mean, you guys on the left and the right, right? You're engineers, so you should be able to tell.
It's pretty much room, so it's like a 3-foot trench for the footing, all the way around, so.
So the other question, my other question related to keeping things within certain areas, vehicles. I know common sense wise, they're most likely gonna stay on the paved areas, but does the commission wanna specify the areas or outside of 50 feet, outside of a certain distance from the resource areas that vehicles wanna stay? Because currently we have outside of jurisdictional areas as sort of a boilerplate condition. Where in this, I don't think.
Do we construction vehicles?
Yes, construction
Yeah,
vehicles.
so I would, however you just said that, I think that's probably a good idea, make sure they're not dripping oil all over the resource.
Yeah, I don't think they will because of,
You're right, I mean, you go with a foot, like a certain, how many feet from the, I'm trying to think of the best way to do it, I mean, it's hard to say in front of the property.
yeah.
But if we figure out the foot, I mean, if we can figure out how far that is and say X amount of feet from.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
would be the
typically we
front
do
and
say
sides.
outside of 75 feet, but I also don't wanna limit if they have to go to, was that the western side of the garage to be doing work, which
Mhm.
I feel as though they won't be doing that, but in the event that they have to, they're still staying within the limit of work regarding erosion control placement,
Mhm.
but,
Is there
That's
enough
why I'm-
room to get a vehicle through there, a construction vehicle through there?
no, but I'm saying if they're manipulated in a strange angle and it
Yeah.
happened to be over that, I wanna be sure that they have the ability to do that and work on the project without encroaching on anything. So I
Makes
don't
sense.
know,
That makes sense.
where's 50 feet on this, like here? Just about,
From the wetland?
yeah.
Well, here's 58
About
feet to the
58
house, so this is 5 feet right here, so another double that, and that's
So do you wanna
your
say
50 coming right through here.
like 60 feet or 50 feet?
Yeah, yeah, even, 15, push it close enough. It'll keep
What
them
did
on the
you
other
say,
side.
58 or 50?
50.
50.
Up to the commission.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
50
making
feet.
Say
the
50.
suggestion.
50.
Yeah. You gotta give them a little-
50.7
Yeah,
inch, no, 50,
yeah, 50.12.
.167.
I should ask, is anybody in the audience here tonight to comment on 670 Main Street? Yes, please.
I'm Pat Ben Settler, I'm at 674.
Okay.
And listening to your conversation really has eliminated any of my concerns. I mean, I just knew the drainage ditch was there. It's been there a long time, historically.
Yeah.
And just making sure that, you know, the wetlands were protected, because this is the first real big construction that's been done in a couple hundred years. So it sounds like, you know, and I've never listened to any of your meetings like this, but I'm very pleased that you're taking as much caution as concern as you are. I mean, I feel sorry for them because I don't think they expected this. I mean, it didn't look like this to them. So, so from my perspective, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Comment? What's the best bet? I know we talked about a few things as far as just getting more detail or putting in some extra comments.
So, two things, you can close and vote next meeting.
Yep.
You can close, vote this meeting, we can draft conditions now. But then you'll have to sign on your own time.
Right, yeah, which,
But
is there a huge rush on this project?
They have other permitting they have to complete.
They're still waiting, all right, in that case, would you guys be fine if we continue to the next meeting, just so we can draw it up? I'd close it and just vote on it next meeting, but if we keep it open, that way, whenever something pops up, if there's a question.
I think if you can close it, that's better for us.
That's more ideal.
Yeah, we can tell them that they're moving ahead that way, and you guys can
And they'll know for the-
work on the special conditions that you
Yeah.
can put in there, if that's agreeable.
Yeah, I don't see any major objections, anyone?
Nope.
Pretty much, all right. All right, in that case, we'll try to go that way. I'm gonna make a motion that we close the public hearing for 670 Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Aye. So closed, and we're going to not take action on this proposal at this time.
but
Yeah.
May 21st, 2019.
And
we'll
we'll,
vote.
yep, withhold our vote until our May 21st, 2019 meeting. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
You're up, South Pole Road.
Are you all aware I'll get this wrong, the new street project? And the one that was involving, the first phase is Guadalupe.
Yep.
And they're putting new sidewalks, taking land.
They'll be filing with us.
Right. I was just as a point of information, I've been working with Joe just to make sure, you know, I have that fence and
Yes.
all of
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know myself where the sidewalks were gonna go. And so it could be all of this wonderful work, I don't know, but it could impact all of this
Right.
conversation, at least based on what he explained to us at the meeting.
All right. Yeah, no, thank you. That's
I mean, it's really pretty impressive that how they can,
yeah.
because they're putting in grass and a bikeway and making sure all the sidewalks are 5 feet. That's 6 feet.
Yeah, it's supposed to add, depending.
So anyhow, thank you.
No, thank you. Or 0 South Hill. Is there a meeting for 0 South Hill? All right, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Norse Environmental on behalf of the applicant for the proposed verification of resource area setbacks located at 0 South Bolton Road, map 2-.C and parcel 15.1. The public meeting to begin right now this evening. How are you?
Good evening, I'm Stephen Erickson from North Environmental Service. This is the plan of the site. The actual resource area for this piece is off of our property. It is an isolated ponded area. So you can see what it looks like, taking pictures from our property. There's very little vegetation around the edges. It's the only place there is vegetation. Most of this area is a farm gravel pit apparently. So there's some shrubs around the edge. What we're really looking at is the bank of that isolated area. We were looking at whether it was a pond. It's just around 10,000 square feet. But Mr. Mormon tells me that it dries out most years. So that wouldn't meet the definition of a pond. It has to have over 10,000 square feet of water and never dry out except in a time of extreme drought. It could be isolated land subject to flooding, but we don't have topography out there, so we couldn't run the stats to see if it is isolated land subject to flooding. It obviously holds over 1/4 of an acre foot of water. The next question would be, can it receive 1/4 of an acre foot of water? And I don't know how big the watershed is without actually going on the adjacent property, getting permission from them. So we could assume that it's isolated land subject to flooding. Of course, under the Wetland Protection Act, there is no buffer zone to isolated land subject to flooding. So that's what we've got. I don't know if you've all gone out there to take a look at it.
I actually got a question.
Is this the property we went to?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
on the,
So it would be the,
Coming up also.
on
okay.
the
I this
western,
looks very familiar.
no,
Yeah, yep.
eastern side of the property,
It's off on the water down here.
or as you come into the property on the left-hand side, there's a burn and you go up.
Okay.
And it's actually on, I understand, on the adjacent property by, that's, what is the string out there? That's property line? The orange?
Yeah, I placed that up. That was
That's the
question.
property line,
Yeah,
huh?
that string is the property line.
Okay, so then it is, pretty sure it's on the opposite, just over the property line. There's an area there that has, you know, wetland indicator species. There's another area further to the southeast of the property. But, so as you go further into the property from South Bolton Road, there was another area that I didn't see any vegetation that was an obligate wetland species. But there were other indicators there. Now, my question is though, that I don't really have a question with, but the area between the potential vernal pool and isolated land subject to flooding, as you're assuming without doing an analysis. And that other I think it's an upland area, I don't define it as a wetland just by going out there and doing a quick investigation. But this area in between, I do in fact think is a wetland resource area. I don't believe its offset of 100 feet would impact the project. But I didn't run tape while I was out there, I didn't do that analysis, I was just looking, there's indicator obligate species there. So I guess my question is, could you look at that and show those offsets? Because
We will, we'll talk to
you're
the neighbor.
showing,
I'll talk to the abutter.
yeah, I mean,
Ask if
just,
they mind us going on the property to flag it. For obvious reasons, we don't generally go on someone else's
yeah, or
property.
even if, even if you just ask them, if they don't mind going on their property, can you measure from that edge to here, and then we'll, if it's that difficult for whatever reason, measure, section it out, whatever you have to do, even though that's.
I can do that with a laser rangefinder.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's not a problem.
But so those were the only areas that I found of concern, or that were interesting in terms of the jurisdictional area of both the bylaw and the State Wetlands Protection Act on site. I know I see there's an existing gravel cart path there through the 100-foot buffer, which I'm not concerned with that because it's existing. You're using it as it is, you're not adding material to it currently. So I have no problem with that. And then in here, like I said, I had no issues, it was just this isolated land subject to flooding, potential vernal pool area, the wetland here, and then this potential wetland area. If you could investigate that further, that would be excellent as well, but again, I don't even think that these two say that this is a wetland resource area. It wouldn't impact this parcel in a significant manner. It may impact the edge of it, but it's on the other side of the berm as well.
We have to check that.
Yeah.
I'll ask the people when they let me go on the property. I'll
Yeah.
go on the property and check it out, flag it. And if not, I'll look at the areas and estimate the distance and get shown on the plan. I can at least bring a pair of binoculars up there and identify the plants in the distance.
Yeah, and
We
I mean, yeah, in this area here, I mean, it's obligate species that you know right off the bat, as soon as you see them, you're gonna go, oh, okay, yeah, okay.
The ponded area, at the time, I didn't even know that was off the property, as I didn't know where the property line was.
Yeah, that's
Fortunately,
fine.
my attorneys tell me that I can only be sued for damages, and the damages of hanging blue ribbon and little aluminum tags is pretty slim.
Also, I do apologize, I had a white mug with me to look, and I think there's some damselfly larvae in there, but that's why I was using it, but I left it on a rock out there. So if you see it, it's mine, it says Concom Test Cup, that's what it's for.
Keep an eye out for it.
That's not, somebody out there when they're not supposed to be. So did the commission members who had a chance to get out there have any other questions or concerns, or?
Somebody live on this property? I mean, these
Yes.
are all.
It is.
There's houses really close, these are glasses.
I see that, thank you. And there's one here too, right? This one is,
I think.
yeah, okay. So I was just wondering about this property right here, who is, but you're gonna figure that out, that's not an issue. This is the pond that we looked at while we were out there, right?
Yeah, that's
That's
the
the
one
one
that's
I'm
sitting
right
right
here.
here.
This.
It's right over here.
Yeah, right.
And we walked
Right,
through here.
Right.
It was not on the door.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would be very surprised if it's even really impacting, this parcel, and impacting meaning really providing any coverage. It might cover like this chunk,
Yeah.
so sort of the odd points of it, but aside from that, I don't see it it shouldn't come out to the center of the property or anything like that, and there's no vegetation along the borders of the property that show obligate species or anything indicative of a wetland, aside from the areas around the border.
Alright. Is anybody here tonight to comment on this, 0 Berlin Road? So.
I remember where we were.
So,
Roads up here.
as far as the RDA goes, right,
We did something.
we're looking to get the answers to those questions first,
It's gotta have-
right?
I mean, realistically, it's up to the commission.
Yeah.
Those are just the things I saw out there that weren't included, and I think it would be mindful just to include the offset so that it's clear, it's done, and there's not a question about it. So yeah, so it would be, issue
Well, the
it,
commission is only being asked to determine this boundary here. There are other areas off-site that are not shown on the plan, we're not asking for that to be determined at this time.
Okay,
We will come back, well, obviously, we're gonna file something for the plan, a notice of intent or whatever is required. So if there's something off-site, we will deal with that at the time of the notice of intent filing.
so you're just specifically asking for verification of the resource area setbacks shown on this plan only, even though,
Yes.
okay.
We've got the wetland across the street, up here, and we've got this kind of indecipherable thing.
Yep. I just wanna make,
we're saying for 100 foot on that. It's a 100 foot offset. This is, these two are the offsets for this, right?
Yes,
To the pond.
they are.
so my other question was, did you do any auger test right at the corner of this,
I didn't,
where there's a little bit of vegetation popping up?
I did some a little bit further out, over
Okay.
this way, where part of the roadway
So
was,
this-
because there was some puddling there.
Yeah, this is just to the west. That was that area that you had brought up.
Yeah.
So in terms of, if you're only looking for determination on this resource area, that would be my only question was, when we were out there, we saw some vegetation creeping up there, just because it's the time of year.
We did some augers out on the roadway over here,
Yeah, I'm not
And we did
questioning the
some-
roadway,
on our property over here, right beside the roadway.
yeah.
And that's an area of primarily raspberry multiflora.
Yeah, no, this,
I did not go right beside it or anything, no.
yeah, this came
Seemed pretty
out.
obvious at the time, it was dry as a bone and it was all exposed gravel for the most part.
When was that? Just curious.
I mean, it's when you do the wet sneaker, when sneakers are wet, you're in it.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, when you went out and it was dry as a bone and everything, when was that?
I think we were out there last late fall. But the whole area was sand and gravel, so.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not questioning the area at all. I know it drains well. When I was doing, that's why I'm saying up here, I wouldn't be surprised if that's not a definitive wetland, because as I was doing my augering, you're hitting gravel and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But over here, you weren't, and there's all the wood plants.
It's a difficult site to auger on.
I'm sure, but this area here, both of us sort of did a double take on it, and it was just at where before the road, actually, you show the roadway here, so it's quite literally at the corner of the roadway, and, the edge of the berm there. There was a low point, and there was some vegetation creeping up. And it
Looking at
wasn't,
the topo, that seems to be,
it wasn't brush, it wasn't multi-floor rows, it
I
wasn't.
guess that that's a foot to 2 feet above the pond elevation,
Oh, yeah, I'm
looking
not,
at the topography. And the definition of a hydric soil is water at or near the surface for a significant portion of the year, when at or near the surface is 12 inches.
mhm.
If I'm 2 feet above it in sand and gravel, the odds of having a hydric soil in that area are pretty much zero.
But yet there might be vegetation supporting hydric soils.
It's always a possibility. I mean, you can go facultative wetland plants anywhere. Look at a red maple tree, it's facultative wetland plant. You can grow it on your lawn, they're all over the place.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't red maple, it wasn't one of those more
And
obvious
you can grow a
ones.
facultative wetland species, all you need is enough topsoil.
Mhm.
You know, if you do good organic soil, you can get wetland plants anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So those are a much better indicator of the wetland body. But when we talk to this guy, from over here, we'll also talk to them and see if they mind us ordering. I don't have a problem ordering at all.
So I thought you could just go out and do it, I apologize on that, but,
Okay.
that, it would still be nice to know, I thought I thought this property line was on the inner part of that.
So the roadway goes onto another piece of property.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't realize that till after this whole survey was done. Then you get the plan, you go, oh, I shouldn't even be walking over there.
Well, at least now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know how to approach it.
Dress up as a tree.
Yeah.
So the commission can make a determination solely
Right.
on this resource area. Whether it's, so what was filed, we are requesting the commission to review an excavated depression or isolated wetland located on the adjacent property, plainly visible from the subject property, and verify the buffer zone offsets. So basically, determining whether or not the area depicted on the plans or maps is subject to the jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act or the municipal wetlands ordinance or bylaw.
Right, so we don't believe it meets the definition of a pond, okay, because it does dry up.
Yep.
If it meets your definition of a pond, then we would have the bank. It doesn't meet the definition of a bordering vegetated wetland, because it's not bordering and there's very little wetland vegetation around it. It may meet the definition of isolated land subject to flooding, still to be proven or
Which you need to-
determined,
Yes,
for which there is no setback under the Wetland Protection Act.
correct. But locally, we do have the 100-foot, so it's listed as a potential vernal pool. We haven't been provided with documentation or any information or data stating why it's not. When I was out there, like I said, there is damselfly larvae, so there are various species there supported by it. But that's not to say that's the defining factor.
Right.
Like I said, I wasn't out there doing an analysis, that's your job, not mine. If we need a third-party review, we would do that, and we would hire someone else to do so. But in stating that, it's still a potential vernal pool, which is protected under a local bylaw, so that's where we're getting that 100-foot offset, which is
Well, I can't prove
vernal
it one
pool
way or another.
habitat.
So if the commission wants to call it a potential vernal pool, that's okay.
Correct, so that's why I'm saying, though, I'm just explaining that 100-foot offset that's
Mhm.
still accurate and current.
Well, we would expect to file with the Conservation Commission anyhow.
Right.
So, I mean, this isn't to get out of filing, this is just to get an agreement. As you're all probably aware, if you're doing a 40B or any other kind of subdivision, if somebody's gonna appeal the subdivision because they don't like it, the first thing they go to is the Conservation Commission and appeal at conservation, because it only costs $100.
This is speculation. I
That's
don't
a
want to
lot,
get into
yeah.
anyway. Like that's just speculation, and I don't know who you're talking about or what you're talking about. But I wouldn't go down that road. So go ahead, Jeff.
What are the W, these are wetland flags?
Yes.
Over there. Who put those in?
Steve.
I think that was it. Okay.
Did you get permission from the owner to put those in?
So he was
No.
just talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, that's what he
how
said.
afterwards
Right.
he
Didn't
realized
have
it, so he
once
just
they
left.
start-
Oh, okay.
And we'll take them all down.
No,
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out what they were and who put them there, so. Because I don't remember seeing, were they there when we were out the site?
Yeah, we use blue flagging and aluminum tags that are mounted.
That's okay, I just was wondering what it was there for and why it was in that configuration, and it's obviously that was your idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so the commission's options are to make a determination, issue a determination, positive or negative. If it's positive, they have to file a notice of intent for the purpose and what's before you only, or you make a determination to basically accept, and determine that this is accurate. These are the offsets that are accurate relative to the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw. Or you can continue it, until the next meeting, for whatever reason you feel is necessary, related to the regulations.
I'm just curious, and it's just for my own edification, trying to figure out. Is this something that would normally be covered under an ANRAD, or is that for a larger project different? I'm trying to think, what are we determining? Usually when there's an RDA, there's a project associated.
Well,
And usually when it's something like, this is what I say the wetland is, then it's
Here's
kind
the
of
way
like an ANRAD. Go ahead, please.
if I could explain how
Yeah,
that
please.
that works. When DEP and the Infinite Wisdom came out with the ANRAD process, they never changed the section on request for determination. So if we've got a small amount of wetland and it's not a huge project, we always try to file for the request for determination, because the way the regulations are written, it's still legitimate to do that, and it's cheaper. If I'm doing a big project with a lot of wetland, if I've got like 500 feet of wetland line, then I always file the INRAD, because it's more easily defensible, and it just seems like it's a better way to go. But the request for a determination is still a legitimate way to go. They just never change the regulation, and it doesn't have that filing fee.
So, but I guess what's the request? To say that we agree
Say
with
that
how you flagged the wetlands?
We agree that it's not jurisdictional under the Wetland
Just
Protection Act.
this
Oh.
one area.
Just this one area, that's correct. That this area
Alright.
is jurisdictional under the Wetland
Well,
Protection.
Do we, well, okay, but hold on.
So the question is it jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act or the local bylaw?
Right. Right, so, and I guess.
Issuing a determination would be stating a determination that this, as it's listed, is an accurate delineation of this isolated area, potential vernal pool, isolated land subject to flooding, with the 100-foot offset from the, not offset, the 100-foot habitat area from the potential vernal pool, which is under a local bylaw, or to issue a determination stating it's not accurate, you need to file a notice of intent, it's not accurate, or, like I said, you continue it based on whatever. So the determination is yes, it's accurate, or no, it's not.
Shouldn't we get the property owner to get involved here?
So the property owner gave me permission to go out
Okay.
and,
And that's in writing somewhere?
yeah, via
Okay.
email. What I didn't do, because they're not hiring me, I work for the town, and even if the town were doing a review of this, it would be a third-party review, not me. So it would be an outstanding person. So by saying that, I don't mean to confuse you, but by saying that it's, they delineated it, didn't realize it was someone else's property apparently, so then they backed off. But I had the work done.
The people that own this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they backed up. So when we went out, after the property owner said, please go double check this, I'm going out and just doing an overview. I'm
Okay.
not doing tests, I'm not
Okay,
spending hours and hours on the potential.
okay, but the property owner, whoever that is, has been confronted with what's going on with this wetlands. I mean, is it, I'm not sure I understand if the people that own this property thought they owned that property, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
So then they wanted to check it out to make sure that they could build on this property. Come to find out it's not their property.
Yes.
So,
So that's a civil
Yeah.
issue outside of this commission, unless you're talking about the resource area itself.
the question is, if we're talking about the resource area, shouldn't the property owner be involved in this sort of conversation as well, or no? No?
Yeah,
So-
I
they're
don't
not
know.
really asking for, they're just not doing anything.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if
So
property owner doesn't give a darn, then.
Well, it's not that they don't give it,
it's not that they don't
they're not asking
give
us
a
to do
darn,
it.
but so it's not that
They
they're
have no say on
delineating
this
a
property.
Right, I understand that,
Right, and this is the project we're talking about.
exactly.
So they.
So why are we getting involved in this?
Because this is gonna cause offsets
Offsets.
onto this property,
Okay.
if that makes
Wetlands.
sense, yeah. We have to worry about the resource area, not so
I
much
know.
the homeowner, if that makes sense.
Exactly, okay.
Okay.
That answered the question.
Okay,
So
so.
the other property owner's been notified.
All right,
that this
so-
is going on.
But here's my question. We don't know what this is yet, right? It could be area subject to flooding, could be pond.
So
Go ahead.
correct, but he's saying, so Steve is saying he's going to assume
It's not a pond.
it's not a pond, it's isolated land subject to flooding.
Yeah,
Assuming it, and maybe it may
It's
not
not a
be, but
vernal
he hasn't done the analysis. He hasn't done the analysis whether it's a vernal pool or not. So he's
Yeah.
stating, for the time being, they're saying it's a resource area. As it's shown on here, it's shown as a resource area that they have flagged
yeah,
with, what is this, 50
it's the
foot?
50 and the
With
100.
50 foot and 100-foot offset as shown. So is that,
Under the bylaw, not under the Wetland Protection Act.
right, so I'm just saying, is this resource area and the offsets as shown on the plans accurate?
Not if it doesn't show the wetland protection offsets, because we don't know what the resource area is yet, right? Because if that's a vernal pool, then we really need to see the wetland protection
Even if
offsets,
it was a
right?
vernal pool,
No, if
it
it's
would
a
not
vernal
be
pool,
protected.
it wouldn't
It wouldn't be, aha,
So it's
okay,
the
this is
opposite.
good, right, that's
It
just the
wouldn't
town.
what? It wouldn't what?
So.
It doesn't
It would not be
trigger.
protected
It
under the
wouldn't-
Wetland Protection Act.
So a potential vernal pool is not
So-
protected, a certified vernal pool is, but within bordering vegetated wetlands, so it sort of backs out of this, it becomes a moot
No,
point.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So it's backwards.
So we're just determining, trying to determine if it's been flagged correctly.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's showing that the property is jurisdictional now, right? And that they're off, the offsets
Right,
actually come onto the property itself.
It's jurisdictional under the local wetland bylaw,
Okay,
not under the Wetland Protection Act.
right, and it wouldn't be, I mean, do we know, have we determined what this is? Depending on what this is, would it be jurisdictional to the Wetlands Protection Act?
yes.
So then we need to define what this is. And I know you say it runs dry, I know you said you looked in the fall, did you bring pictures of when it was dry? Because a lot of times when it goes dry, people, the first thing they show me, here's a picture when it was dry. The second thing is, I have no reason to doubt you, but you'll be shocked to hear I've been lied to all the time about, no, this runs dry all the time. Trust me, I'm not gonna trust you, I need some proof of that. It's a very big pond right now. It may drain, we really need to know what this is. In other words, we can take a vote tonight, but I'm not gonna say it's not jurisdictional until I know what the hell it is.
Well,
And
even
it's-
if it's
Go ahead.
isolated land subject to flooding,
Yeah,
there's no 100-foot buffer zone under the Wetland Protection
Okay.
Act. So just think Wetland Protection Act.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
If it's a vernal pool, and I
Yeah.
haven't done the research on that either,
yeah.
then there's still no Wetland Protection Act protection to it.
And if it's a pond,
And if it's a pond, and it's over 10,000 square feet, we can get an affidavit, and DEP will accept that from the owner of the property, who'll say it dries out every year.
okay.
And if you want the affidavit, we can provide that after the fact.
No, we're not doing anything after the fact. I wanna know what it is before, I wouldn't sign off that it's non-jurisdictional to the Wetlands Protection Act until we actually know what it is. And I don't wanna take anybody's word for that, I'd like to know how we can determine that. I mean, if you can get an affidavit with somebody who says it dries out, maybe they have pictures, in theory, if it runs dry every year, it should be running dry in the next month or so, right?
Mr. Moore has seen it dry, and I can get him to write out an affidavit right now.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but I mean, if you'd like, we can continue it to the next meeting so you can get the affidavit, or we can close it tonight, but I don't think I can approve it. I think I would say we'd have to go the NOI route. Like I said, not knowing exactly what the resource area is, I don't think I could, in good conscience, say
Why
that.
don't you close the hearing, we'll
Okay.
provide the affidavit, you have 21 days to issue, so we'll provide an affidavit for the next week, or this week even,
Okay,
and you'll have the affidavit that it's dry. But we're not gonna wait until August for it to dry out. I mean, that would lose 6 months of potential building season,
right.
so we don't wanna do that.
So is the affidavit all that the commission is looking for?
No, I mean, I would like to
What
see
is-
it
what is the
defined,
affidavit for?
yeah,
I'm
well,
so
it's.
confused.
So he's
I thought we
stating
were
that-
stating that this is a wetland,
Yes.
and that
It
there's a
is.
50
No,
or
we're
a
asking
100.
you to determine
So-
what the jurisdictional basis of it is.
So
Okay.
what Brian's comment is, because we know locally, yes, it's jurisdictional under the bylaw. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, because it's not defined the category or type of wetland, because the analysis hasn't been done, because the property owner conflict that they've, not conflict, but that they've realized it's not on their property, so they didn't
Okay.
complete the analysis. They have to now get permission and work on that, to complete it, to define what that resource area is under the State Wetlands Protection Act. That's what Brian seems to be weary of.
I agree, I actually agree.
Okay, I get it
Because
now.
that would define what jurisdiction the commission would have over that, or basically over this property under the state regulations.
But even if it's isolated land subject to flooding,
I
there is
understand.
no buffer zone.
I understand.
So it's a moot point. It doesn't matter
So-
if it's isolated land subject to flooding.
Yeah,
So are
It
you
may under
asking,
local bylaw,
but are
it does
you
not
asking
under
us
state.
to approve this as a wetland with 100-foot?
no,
No, I want you to approve
There's-
it not as a
That's,
border
okay,
vegetated
that,
wetland,
that's where I'm
Right.
confused.
not
Okay.
as
Okay.
jurisdictional wetland under the Wetland Protection Act.
Okay.
so Can we just sort of back up here for a second?
Yeah, sorry.
So you went out, can you just talk about how you just delineated or came to the conclusion of it? So I know you did, you were talking about what it holds, the area holds. You were talking about, you did auger tests?
We did auger tests in other areas a lot. I did not do augers around here because the topography was so abrupt, it wasn't necessary.
Right, and there was no vegetation at the time that
There
would
was
show.
very little wetland vegetation growing around it. And I stayed outside of that wetland vegetation, assuming that the water level came up that high.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to.
It's actually a simple question. I mean,
It's a complicated question.
you may take jurisdiction under the Local Wetland Protection Act, but under state law, there's no jurisdiction over this.
According to,
Well, so that's what he's.
that's what I wanna know.
That's what
It
he's
depends on what this is
requesting, the
defined. You're giving me a definition that works really good for what you're trying to do. You're giving me the definition that you want, and I wanna know what this is defined by somebody that doesn't have skin in the game. And I don't wanna sign off that it's non-jurisdictional to the Wetlands Protection Act until somebody who doesn't have money involved with this tells me what this is. That's kind of where I'm at, you know, and again, like if it runs dry all the time, and it was dry all the time last year, why not take a picture of it when it's dry? Why not? Because the people that have stuff that run dry, they come in with as many pictures as they can give us. Here you go, look, it ran dry, You know,
When you're standing in a hole in a gravel pit, you just don't think about it.
I was never standing in a hole in that gravel pit personally.
Well, I can get
So
you that.
I mean, again, we can vote on this tonight if you want. If you don't want to continue it, you want to vote on it tonight. I'm just saying I can't, without this defined, I can't determine that this is correct without knowing what this body of water is, because it's a significantly sized body of water right now, as it stands right now. I mean, it might be something else in a week, in a month. I don't know. And not knowing, I can't in good conscience sign off on it. That's just me. I can't speak for everybody else here, but that's kind of where I'm at. Is anybody in the audience here to comment on this project tonight? Put that out quick. Any other thoughts, members of the commission?
I agree with you. I don't know how we can,
Yeah.
you need to verify it somehow or another, but, I mean, something in, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to be honest with you,
The
but I
only
do think it needs to be.
verification I can give you is an affidavit
Okay,
from
so-
the owner saying that it was dried.
Okay,
That's,
so I think that's what we need.
that's all I can
So if we
do.
get something saying it's dry every year, do you need something that says that?
It doesn't have to be dry
Not
every
every
year.
year.
Just one.
Doesn't have to be every year.
One
But-
drought during a non-drought period. And last summer we
Normally
didn't have
that
a drought.
includes photo documentation, just like we saw in 21 Century Mill when they did the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. They went out there, they took photos when it was dry, when it was wet, just like we saw with Teal Road, dry, wet, all sides of the property. Brian's right, we typically do get, if something dries up, whether it's a classified perennial stream, they're contesting it's intermittent, or it's a ponded area or basin that dries up, whether it be a year, every year, part of the year, we see every picture under the sun of that to try and prove it. So I do agree with Brian, that's typically what we see, but I also am not the commission, so.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Add one thing if I could.
Yeah, if you would just give your name quick,
Yeah,
please.
my name's Jim Moore. I'm the owner of the property. I also live in Bolton at 58 Oak Trail.
Okay.
My understanding on the delineation or the RDA would be just to verify the locations of the flags. Not to say it's jurisdictional or not, but if we could just agree to the locations of the flags at this time, that, your conservation agent did go out, some of the commissions went out. I mean, does it appear like that's where the flags are and that's what we can agree to? Because I think that's really all we need. We don't need to know Because like Steve was saying earlier, that we're gonna come back and file a notice of intent when this project moves forward. We'll get into those other areas behind the berm, as the agent said.
Yeah.
So if we could just agree, I think, that what we've shown or depicted, that you guys went out and viewed it and say, yeah, that's where the flags appear to be.
Yep. That makes sense, and I can see doing that. Does that need a definition though? You know, if we're saying that the resource area is properly flagged, we need to say what the resource area is. That's my only real, or does their RDA lead it in any direction that?
So I'll read again what
Please.
the request for determination of applicability states. It's stating, I request the Bolton Conservation Commission makes the following determinations. And check 2, whether the area depicted on plans and or maps referenced below is an area subject to jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act. Or D, whether the whether the area and or work depicted on plans referenced below is subject to the jurisdiction of any municipal wetlands ordinance or bylaw of Bolton. And the work description, we are requesting, it says no proposed work because they're just talking about this area. We are requesting the commission review an excavated depression or isolated wetland located on the adjacent property at 31 Spectral Hill Road, map 2C parcel 41, plainly visible from the subject property, and verify the buffer zone offsets.
Steve, could we just agree to the location at this time? And we're gonna come back and file a notice of intent, that way, at least we all have an agreement, the parties would agree that that's the location, and then
You're the boss.
I would just to stop the confusion, and then as we move forward with it, if we can just agree to the location, I'd be fine with that. Because that's what's most important to us right now.
I think I'd be fine with that. I mean, that asks a lot of jurisdiction questions and what are the,
So this again
yeah.
is requesting jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act, local bylaw, or ordinance for the wetland. So
Steve, would that be a delineation line only at this point? And we could change that form now?
We could, the commission could just approve the delineation. We have the right to appeal, or we have the right to just accept it. 10 days, so.
or
So
the
if you
commission
want to
can
accept
continue
it,
too.
that's your
Yeah.
prerogative.
Well, only with the,
You know,
Permission, yeah.
the commission just says, we believe that the delineation is accurate as shown on the plan. But withholding judgment on jurisdiction on the Wetland Protection Act and the local wetland bylaw, then if Jim wants to accept that, that's fine.
I think it just takes a lot of confusion out of the unknowns, and we can work on getting the answers to the commission on all those other things that were mentioned tonight.
Unless you want to just continue.
I'd rather just settle for the line now.
it's possible. I'm curious if we can do that with what's been submitted. Because if we need to rewrite, take things out, change things on what's been submitted, then I'll probably ask that you either continue it or we'll close it and rewrite it all for next time.
You can write a decision any way you want.
Right,
And
right.
that client
We understand
obviously.
that.
No, I'm aware of that, but to dictate out the full decision and to think through everything we just did and see what I want to take out of that or add into that, I don't know that
He's
we're
saying
gonna
to draft
spend the
it.
time tonight, yeah.
He's saying to draft the determination language is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry if that wasn't clear. But in order to do that, we'll usually, again, either continue it or we can close it and then vote on it at next meeting to give us a chance to redraft it. We're not gonna redraft it here tonight, it's already 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But that's kind of where I'm at. I'm happy to do that, to just agree to like where the flags
Yeah,
are,
that's-
you know, that's the
So you're
resource
fine with
area.
where the flags are around the basin.
I am curious about this area where it was, again, you could kind of see the floor starting to come up and into, or up to where the roadway was there.
So it may be possible, I'm just nitpicking now, just because it seems like you want some sort of a decision this evening, or to at least close. Because that area may or may not be in question by the commission members, maybe not, but if it is, you could always draft a determination that states, you know, that the resource area flagging is correct for flags.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean, and leave that section, so you're not actually
16A,
closing that
36,
resource
or
area.
A19 or something like that.
Yeah, and it may be that there's no question and you're fine with the way it is, but if there was a question, there may be a way to just resolve it and close it out.
Debbie, just one other thing, if I could, through the chair, is when I bought this land and when I decided to do this type of development, I did deliberately pull everything 100 feet outside. I mean, this didn't just appear the way you see it.
No,
So just so
yeah.
you know, I'm concerned with that area too, and that's what I'm saying, if I just had the line now, and I've already pulled everything out, I already shrunk the amount of units. By Title V standards, we could have like 18 there. Then we met with the fire department and we spread them out with Seth's help, 20 feet apart, and all kinds of things have already been taken into account. And one of the issues I was right at the forefront.
Yeah,
I said,
well, hold on. First of all, I'm gonna stop you. There's no proposal in front of us, like,
Right.
I don't even
No,
know
I-
half the things you're talking about.
No,
I haven't even heard
I know
of.
that. I'm just trying to
I've
give
heard
you a little bit of
speculation.
background,
Right,
why I would settle for just.
Right, but I'm just saying there's
one.
nothing on this map with anything you're
Right.
talking about right now. So
Okay.
I'm leery to throw that into a public meeting
Yeah.
and put it out there without us having really any plans.
Okay.
And I hate to cut you off,
No,
but
that's
again, I
fine.
didn't want you to go in too far down the road
Right.
trying to throw out what you're trying to do here, and it just kind of throws us off.
So basically, we have to say, this is good, these flags are good, or they're not good.
Right,
Right.
Or
it's
we need more
partially good,
information.
we need more information.
We're more information. So, when we were out there, I don't remember looking at the flag, do you? You and I and Rebecca were out on
We were
this
out
beach.
there like 2.5 weeks ago, maybe.
There was
with
more
the
than
flags
that,
up.
but,
Were the flags?
They were.
Okay.
no, I don't remember, I didn't
They were.
see them, and I didn't know we were supposed to be looking at them.
Right.
So, I guess they're there because the green line is there, right?
Yes,
So, I don't know,
they are,
they are there.
they exist.
How would other people feel if we were just to basically confirm that the flagging is correct?
I haven't been out there, so
Okay.
I trust in y'all.
This is some great pictures here, yeah.
That's any flags.
Is that, and I would, again, we can close it tonight or we can continue it. I would say we're gonna vote on it at next meeting because we gotta make sure the RDA follows exactly what we're saying. It doesn't have anything additional in it. But would be, if that were the case, would we be comfortable just saying that the flagging was correct
Yeah.
around it?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, so it looks like we can do that.
Okay.
Again, I'm just
That's
gonna go
fine.
through the RDA and make sure that it's
Yeah,
written
I
properly.
appreciate that.
Okay. So we have two options. We can continue it until next meeting, or we can close it now and vote on it next meeting after we make changes. Either one works. Usually I'll say if you wanna continue, that's good, because that way if anything pops up and we need to make changes, we can. It's your decision.
That's fine.
Is that all right?
Did you, Chairman Dillis, put the flags up?
Excuse me?
Who put the flag, you put the flags up?
Flags up, flags up.
Yes.
All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 0 Berlin Road,
So.
0 South Bolton Road, until our next public meeting, May 31st at,
21st.
wow,
It's okay.
May 21st at 8:15 PM. Yeah, we have Scott up through 8 and 8:10.
Yeah, so 8:15 or 8:10.
Okay. At 8:10. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Yes. I didn't write that down. All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Seth Donahoe on behalf of the applicant for the project located at 0 Berlin Road, Assessors Map 3.C, Parcel 72. The public meeting can begin here and now.
Good evening, how are you? I'm doing well. So for the record, Seth Donahoe with Ducharme Gillis, here on behalf of the applicant. We had a miscommunication on a butters for another hearing. Can we make sure no one's here for 811 Main, just so they're not sitting around for nothing?
Sure. Is anybody here to comment on 811 Main Street?
Nope.
All right.
Okay. Green or white cards, any? Either or? You want both?
Yeah, thank you.
So we submitted an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, seeking confirmation of the delineated wetland resource areas at this site. It is located at the intersection of Farm Road and Berlin Road on the southerly side headed towards Berlin. It's presently, the majority of the site is a cleared field with some scrub vegetation along the perimeters, and then there is the remnants of a farm pond on this corner of the site. It appears to be like a sugar shack or some form of agricultural structure here, as well as either a potato shed or another agricultural shed there. We've done soil observations throughout the site. In your ANRAD application, there are some field delineation information as well as related to the vegetation that's there. Being that it's a cleared field, there is a good mix of invasive material at the edges of the field, what they couldn't use. In general, it does transition pretty quick to abundant sensitive fern, was one of the best indicators, and red osier dogwood is throughout this area as well. As it goes upland on this side, the topography rises steeply, and there is some sugar maples near the sugar shack structure, and the rest of the vegetation on the site tends to be scrub, second growth, smaller trees throughout the area. So we've delineated the edge of a wetland resource area. It's a continuous line starting with flag A1. We go all the way to flag A35 on the opposite side of the site. We have some riverfront flags. There's a mapped perennial stream originating right here. There's 3 riverfront flags there. That's entirely within the BVW. And then the area that's designated as the farm pond, that's shown as a potential vernal pool. One of the primary definitions of a vernal pool is a confined basin, and we found that that is not the case. It actually creates the stream. It's a continuous flowing outlet on that side of it. I have some photographs into the site over the past few months, and I can pass this around to help, but the water's clearly visible here. This is the edge of the river flag, and you can see that the water is continuously connected. Again, the outlet of the farm pond is essentially creating the perennial stream in this case.
Is that pond full all year?
A portion of it is certainly full all year, or on most years. I was told that it was dug, and they sent either a well point down or something down to get a continuous feed. There's also a storm drain here, which has an outfall right in this vicinity here as well. So it's fed throughout most of the year. I can't speak to it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just curious.
I mean, even the aerial photos, which are taken prior to the foliage being out, you can see that it's abundantly full at that point as well.
Do you know if the field's maintained over here?
It sure looks like it. I don't know. I know it's changed hands recently, and I don't know if they're going to continue.
I was just asking within the past like 5 years if it's.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, when we were out there today, it has no signs of any type of woody vegetation in the field.
Yeah, so that's
I just wanted to voice that for the commission so that you're aware of it.
Yeah. One of the nice parts about mowed field, I find, is that the tractor doesn't go in the wetlands because it gets stuck. So we get a pretty defined line there. There is a section in this area and in this area where the flags, and actually right in here, and we have some pictures in our application here too, where we pulled the flags out of the field based on hydric soils. The soils throughout the site were found to be fairly sandy to very sandy, and there's a pretty distinct change between a very bright upland soil, and then you get some heavy mottling in a much grayer hydric soil throughout. that coupled with the topography, it's not a crazy that this line is gonna creep way up here or anything. It's got a pretty abrupt change.
And then can you just, for the commission, because for myself, I double take looking at it, maybe the commission is clear, but can you just point to the open space and then point to the property that you're talking about?
So this is the actual locus. Similar to the situation with the last site, they were cut out of a much larger piece, and the land that they weren't using was poorly defined. That's just kind of leftover land. And this is the actual survey boundary of, after we took into consideration of everything that was in the area, this is what's left, and that's what they got. So this area was conveyed, I believe it was open space, you can correct me
To
if
the
I'm wrong.
trust, yeah.
And that is related to, there's a large common driveway
Yeah.
off Berlin Road. I think they have Berlin Road addresses,
Yes.
but it's a large common driveway. Your commission worked on a certificate of compliance, I think, the last 8-9 months for one of the residents there.
So I just wanted to clarify, showing that the wetlands aren't actually, aside from that pond, aren't
Yeah, this
actually on
area.
the parcel, but rather just delineating the offsets for the parcel that's now.
So I've highlighted the 100-foot buffer zone from the BVW. This is your 200-foot riparian zone, which is based on the stream at the rear portion of the property. All the lesser regulatory buffer zones are shown, and they're just in black ink on this plan. We've given you soil logs throughout. They're indicated with this symbol here, and they're numbered. You have a letter from me, I believe from last week, that just representative of many of the samples we took with some hand dug holes. And
Thank you
then,
for providing that, by the way.
no problem.
How many acres is the lot?
It's 107,000 square feet, so, yeah, 2.5-ish in there. There's no FEMA flood zone mapped on the site. It's not in priority habitat, although that is subject to NHESP and would change throughout the years. And then you have a USGS map, and that's clearly showing the perennial stream, and it actually designates the pond on that as well. The pond has been there for quite some time. Are there any questions related to the methods or anything that you've spoken of?
I have a question, maybe it's a typo. You state in your narrative, flood insurance rate map for the town of Bolton, the project site does have areas subject to inundation during a 100-year frequency storm event?
It does not. So the FEMA map is in, that's a different one. I'm just gonna pass that to you just so there's no,
When I was looking for something else, I just caught that.
so it's showing the project sites in red with the pond, and it's all designated zone X, so undesignated area.
Does anybody here in the audience like to comment on this particular project?
Any questions from other commission members?
Garter snakes are not a protected species, right?
There's a lot.
Or spiders,
Quite a few
or
there,
ticks.
yeah, and ticks.
Actually, do you have any additional questions?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
It shows, just trying to look at the plan and make sure we're not missing anything. What is that lighter green showing, I'm sorry?
This guy?
Yeah.
That's just the approximate limit of the farm pond area, just to designate.
Oh, and then the rest of BBW?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the wetland extends out from the area of standing water, and I expect that's the case throughout all seasons on the site.
So also while we're here, the demolition permit for those two buildings, technically before us, are you filing that with a notice of intent in the future, or you wanna talk about it now?
No, I know that the there was a question if one of these structures or both of them would be subject to demolition delay as a historic structure, and that's why that was submitted. And then you and I spoke because there was nothing related to erosion controls or anything for the
Right.
removal of it. It's not the intent of the demolition to move forward. Now, you'll get a full NOI for alterations related to that property, so
Okay, I just didn't know if you wanted to handle that prior at the same time with notice intent, that's why I was.
we'll do it with the notice of intent and
Okay,
show
that's fine.
full
Totally fine.
full siltation barrier and whatever removal instructions are needed.
All right. Other concerns?
So as it's an ANRAD, we're just seeking approval of the resource areas delineated, so we request to show the perennial stream marked from flags R1 through R3 extending off site, their associated riparian zone, edge of the BVW, flags A1 through A35, and then per the evidence presented that the farm pond does flow out and would not qualify as a vernal pool then.
Which is moot though, because it exists within the BBW, so you're
It's
still
in the-
matching those.
It's in the BVW, just, it's flagged as a potential vernal pool per NHGSP, and we'd like to make that determination.
Okay. And then the red is 200?
It is 200.
All right. If there's no questions or problems, I'm gonna make a motion that we close the public hearing for, close the public hearing for, the project located at 0 Berlin Road, Assessors Map 3.C, parcel 72. Everyone a second?
Second.
Oh, and quickly, we didn't get any comment back from DEP, and they did issue the number.
Oh, they
So
did?
well said.
Oh, good.
Under duress, the call. I
Yeah.
don't know why that keeps happening, but.
She just got back from vacation, I think, and they're a little bashed
Understood.
up, to say the least.
So.
So you are issuing an order of delineation stating accurate boundaries, modified boundaries, or inaccurate boundaries.
So accurate. So I'd like to make a motion that we issue, that we find the application for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation showed accurate boundaries as submitted.
Yep, but we have to list out the resource areas. So as accurate for bordering vegetated wetlands, adjacent upland resource area, 25-foot prohibition area, the perennial stream, riverfront area. That's it, right? What am I missing?
The
Oh, and then
pond.
the pond.
Okay. Did we issue, wait, that we determine the, I'd like to make a motion that we determine the request for determination of applicability for 0 South Bolton Road.
0.
Thank
Berlin.
you. 0 Berlin Road, map 3.C, parcel 72. That we accept.
Issue.
That we issue the, as accurate, right?
So you're determining the order of delineation is accurate.
That we determine the order of delineation, the order of delineation is accurate for the bordering vegetative wetland,
Yeah.
adjacent upland resource areas,
Yep.
25-foot buffer zone,
Yep.
the perennial stream,
Riverfront area.
the riverfront area, the 200-foot riverfront offset, and the definition of the farm pond that currently flows off-site.
Do you want us to specify anything about the vernal pool?
It just does not meet the criteria for a vernal pool due to
Okay.
flowing to the stream.
Is the commission comfortable with that?
Yeah, and then,
So that's more for a local bylaw.
Yeah. Adding that should be good, right?
Are we missing any resource areas?
We've got almost all of them.
Almost.
Oak and land.
Okay.
We don't have any
No,
problem.
okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right. So, all those, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we thank you for your time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll be sent to the applicant, or I can pick it up, whatever.
Do you, what's easier for you?
Pick it up's easier.
Okay. I will email you this way.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Everyone stand up,
Please.
stretch out, shake. Okay. That's almost there, I promise. I know.
No, we're not good for a while.
Who are?
Who had the second?
Emily did. Jeff had the second close, Emily had the second too.
Closed.
Yeah, Jeff closed it, and then Emily seconded.
Get to that point.
This helps.
I know.
Jot things down.
Do it for everyone next time.
All right.
And then you can start making motions. Ah, I forgot. I knew there was something I was forgetting. I knew there was. Next meeting I'll bring coffee.
That would be excellent.
Promise.
Okay.
Well, at least like this, as long as we get it in a while.
You are, make sure you keep that in minutes too. All right, are you ready for next?
2001.
Of course.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent filed by Andrew Adams on behalf of the applicant for the proposed new home with 3-car garage to be built over existing foundation walls. Front of the house will have a porch to connect to the garage, new septic system outside 100 feet from the resource area, and 2 leaching fields for roof and driveway runoff, also outside the 100 foot from the 100 feet from the resource area. Proposed project to be located at 72 Hudson Road. The public meeting to be continued right here, right now, this evening. So,
Okay.
yeah.
How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you?
So we had continued meeting last time to go back because they had basically stated that they could take a look at the trees, remove, I think more than half of what you originally proposed to remove, re-flagged it. I went out today, took a look at it, pulled all the flags off the trees they're proposing to keep. And that is totaling, just look at the numbers. So at 72 Hudson Road, it was proposing to remove 5 oaks, 3 cedars, or 2 cedars, and then another large tree that is at the existing foundation. So it's at the front of the home, further away from the resource area. And then 4 large pines on the property, but then keeping everything else. Where before, I think we had over 24 trees.
Yeah, no, he wants to keep a lot,
Yeah. So now
which is great.
And we had talked about
13
stumps too, last time.
stump grinding. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanna touch on it.
Yeah, so obviously there's a couple trees in the front and the sides that are like close to the foundation we have to take out, which is what it is. Everything else, Ray pretty much, he's okay with, you know, keeping a stump there, which is fine. I think there's one big pine, I think it was, on the base of the bank, that we're just gonna cut real low and leave it. Might make a table or something out of it. But, there's your, so yeah, that's really it. I mean, we don't have any issues out there at all with the trees.
So now we have a total of 13 trees to be removed. So I don't know if the commission wants to add that in as a condition. for the order of conditions to specify the trees to be removed or total trees to be removed. The other thing that I was talking to Ray and Andrew on site was whether the commission would want it to be shown on revised plans before they issue an order of conditions, or if they're comfortable having it shown on the as-built. We've seen it both ways before, so I'm impartial.
I think if we have the quantity written into the conditions and then we have it on the as-built, that's fine, right?
That sounds fine to me.
Especially if it's been reviewed in the field and everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, that's ideal for me.
Me too.
I know we looked at it last time. We currently have an order of conditions submitted, right?
Correct.
We have notice of intent.
I'm sorry, notice of intent submitted. And we'd be looking to, in theory, to approve that with the following conditions.
Yeah, and, any that the commission wishes to add. Just a reminder.
Basically, this is like your cul-de-sac, and down.
No. Yeah, obviously, like, these are all gonna go, most of these are staying over here, there's a couple here.
The erosion control staying,
Yeah,
with
this,
no additional, so there's a
Should we-
wall, an orange silk fence up currently.
yeah,
Um,
pretty much borders this and then comes all the way up past, up here.
Do you have stockpiles marked, or temporary stockpiles marked on the plan?
What do you mean?
So as you're working on site, I assume you use stockpile materials?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any locations here, I mean, the only thing we're really gonna stockpile, because we're keeping the foundation, is a minimal excavation over here, which we'll probably keep on this side.
Okay, so we can, you'd be comfortable if we say outside the 100-foot buffer?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine with that,
Okay.
yeah. Because the septic's all the way there anyways, yeah, it's totally fine. And then I think this is the one here that we'll cut really low and just leave. Most of these are staying. Yeah. And then this is your main house, this foundation needs some repair. We took the deck off the other day. Like, this wall right here is a little shaky, so I'm just gonna repair that. I'm not gonna pour cast concrete, I'm just gonna do block again and fill it. And my engineer right here, so, you know, we get minimal repair work in this foundation. And then this will be new frost walls and slab for the garage.
Do you recall, was there anything else? I'm trying to think. I know that was the big question was the trees.
Trees.
Yep, but
Yeah.
there was no other specialists we were looking at, or stop.
No, I know questions asked last time were about the deck in the breezeway there, but
This wall here.
it's all open. Oh yeah, and then the wall, but the wall's staying.
Yeah.
And it's within the same footprint, using the same foundation.
Right.
That accessory structure on this side, he said it's gonna be a boathouse, so they're gonna, again, build it in the same footprint, just a different use. So not enlarging anything aside from the decks, but those are going to be relatively pervious, and they're not gonna be on ground surface.
This well location, we couldn't find the well company out there, and for some reason, we just can't find it, so.
So where are you proposing to put the new well?
Probably gonna put it over here somewhere. It's gonna have to be 100 feet away from this, so.
But you wouldn't put it obviously closer to the pond?
Nah.
Okay.
I mean, would you let us put it up there?
Nice to avoid it.
Well, that's why I'm asking that question now, so you can,
I mean,
if you wanna
I mean,
propose.
I don't even think it's gonna be a good idea to do it over here, access-wise, after the fact, if we would have to do something like that. I mean, over here, the truck can easily come and drill something new.
I think because it's outside of the commission's jurisdiction,
Yeah,
Then we
that would
might
be
even have to- yep.
beneficial.
Come on outside.
But,
Yeah.
It's not, the septic's here, right? And it's not downhill from the septic.
total number of trees?
13.
13.
I'm not gonna have an issue.
I think I shouldn't talk, because I'm just something in their house.
12?
There's some good ledge there, it's cleaning up, whatever.
So it's tree removal limited to 5 oaks, 3 foundation trees, 4 pines, which total 12 trees.
So the well's not
Stump
a
grinding
problem,
limited
right?
to around the foundation.
Board of Health, right? Yeah.
Other condition, stockpiling outside the 100-foot buffer.
Yep.
Do we wanna limit vehicular traffic? Or machinery, rather?
I don't think you can.
No.
Well, I was gonna
I'm
say,
just
you can say
asking the
that,
question
you know,
now, so we can put it
You
in the order
got,
if
you're not
it's
gonna bring any
necessary.
boats over here and any of that stuff.
There you go, put a train on the boat, lift up.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, no.
No.
Yeah, I have to go have a hard time
We're not even, you know,
finding exactly.
tree
And
wise.
then the relocation.
If all these
well
trees
to
are
the
staying, you're
outside.
not
That's
gonna
what I'm
get
saying. I
machines
mean, if
there
anything, it
anyway.
might be a bobcat,
Yeah,
to get
it's a-
some, stone over here or something, but.
Yeah.
So outside 25.
This damn thing's called wheelbarrows.
Oh,
Well,
either the location or
We'll call it from the
relocation.
guys.
It's very efficient.
Place it outside the 100.
Sometimes you gotta do that.
Sometimes you
100
do.
feet. from
Bucket,
the source area.
bucket, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, but it can't be found, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, located outside,
Right.
because they said they couldn't find it.
Okay.
Okay.
Trees coming down with a crane.
I think some of them are gonna have to. Yeah. This one's these are big over here, some of these are big ones.
Just take a day, piece of piece of drop it.
Right? You might be able to drop a couple of these over here. But this one definitely, this one crane. Yeah. Probably a couple days worth of work.
So the question is, there are no rare species living up in those trees or anything you may notice?
I hope, hopefully no spotted turtles up there. or anything like that.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Anybody here to comment on this project tonight? In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 72 Hudson Road.
Second.
There you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. I'd like to make a motion that we issue the order of conditions for 72 Hudson Road as drafted and submitted with the following additions. That the location, or in this case, relocation of the well be outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yep.
That stockpiling of any materials on site also be kept to 100, outside the 100-foot buffer zone. That the total trees removed shall be limited to the 12 discussed in the meeting this evening and approved in the field. And that stumps of said trees are to remain in all situations, in situations that wherever practicable and not interfering with the laying of the foundation of the house.
Should be 13 trees.
It's 13?
Then it needs to have
I got 12
Yeah,
kind of too.
12?
I see 12, 5, 2, 1, and 4.
Wasn't 13 mentioned
I said
Somebody-
13,
somebody
so then I
said-
messed up.
Okay.
Somebody
Right.
said 13.
I don't wanna wait
I-
anymore.
What was listed like on 12, right?
I hit everything, right?
Yeah, you did.
I did, yes. All right, in that case, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Have a good night, guys.
Take care.
Too.
Well,
It's a little late for that.
sorry.
I hope we're
It's
not
all
gonna
right.
Scott an hour next time.
This
Should
is
charge.
the Bible.
This is my copy.
Okay, so you can sign this.
We're getting the next one's fast, I promise.
It's separate, we have to keep them all separate.
Yeah,
I know.
That's
Do you
just
wanna
part
just
of
check
the
with
rules,
the
right?
ones here and just
Well, we
look
can
at
catch
that?
I should.
No, because Scott's gonna be at our
Yeah.
next meeting with the four,
Yep.
and he's gonna get an hour again.
You don't have to give me
Is anyone here by chance to discuss 147 Long Hill Road tonight?
Familiar faces.
We didn't have a time on it, we had an open time earlier, so we did take the vote. We did vote in favor of to,
Third-party review.
yeah,
Third-party
basically.
review.
I can read it back for you. We made a motion which was approved in general to impose reasonable fees for the employment of an outside consultant to be engaged by the Concom for specific expert services deemed necessary by the commission at this public meeting in order to come to a decision on whether the wetland replication area has been completed in accordance with our order of conditions. These reasonable fees shall be these reasonable fees shall be the responsibility of the applicant, who will be notified in writing of the consultant, the amount of fee to be charged, and a request for payment of the fee in its entirety. The request is pursuant to Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, and associated regulations 4.03, consulting fees. We put that motion up, that passed unanimously.
Okay, great. Is there any timeline on it?
So now that that's there, at the next meeting, the commission will look at a list of consultants whom, so I'm gonna put together a list that they can choose from, see which one works best, or that they would like to work with, or see if they're available to do the work. And then from there, we have to, like our bylaw states, notify. They have 10 days from the point of notification to provide some sort of a refusal and reasoning why that's appropriate, basically. Most of the time, there's not a refusal. And then after those 10 days, it just,
So if I'd have to do the math, but if your meeting's not for 2 weeks and 10 days.
our meeting's on the 21st, so
Okay.
we need 10 days after the 21st.
Alright, so then that's like the beginning of June.
Yep.
And that's when his time is up. So I'm assuming he won't do it, but if is there any like estimate of how much it costs, since it seems like it would likely come out of the bond? Like,
It's
are we
within-
talking like
it's within-
$1,000 or like 10,000?
It depends on who you would hire.
Okay.
So when you reach out to the consultants, sometimes it's the same amount of the survey, which varies depending on what consultant or company you use. Same thing with
Okay,
wetland
so it
scientists.
would go forward with him on board or without?
Right.
Okay. Alright. Yeah, so is the deadline still being kind of enforced then? I mean, because if he doesn't.
Oh yeah, it's the same still. That hasn't been
So
altered.
June 1st isn't changing and he still has to do. Yeah, I mean, I can just see it, it's like they'll find something and he'll say he didn't have enough time to do it.
I don't think that's a proper excuse at this point.
Okay, alright.
Just putting that out there.
Okay, that's great, as long as, yeah, sounds good then. Alright, thank you.
for letting us know. No, thank you. Sorry for having you wait. Fire ponds?
Fire ponds.
Fire ponds.
Thank you for waking me up.
Sorry.
What are you?
Did you already dug out the National Way?
Yeah.
We did.
It was tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Move up a little closer, sorry.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed by Jack Holbrook on behalf of the applicant for a proposed fire pond inclusive of a dry hydrant to be installed in an existing basin located at 626 Main Street. The public meeting to begin right now.
A little background, I got involved in this sometime in late November or December, when it was determined that Mr. Patterson had expanded and gone a little bit over the threshold, which would necessitate necessitate sprinkling the whole building at a major outlay of considerable amount of money. He and the fire chief negotiated that
if you could develop this fire pond, it would be a suitable remedy to the situation. At that point, I got a call saying, "Do you think this can be done?" And I said, "Yeah, probably, because I've done a lot of fire ponds." Sorry, some of you I may recognize me, I don't recognize all of you. So anyhow, but I've been doing fire ponds for a long time now, 7 or 8 years, primarily for the town. But anyhow, we have, Rebecca recommended that we file with National Heritage because this might be a vernal pond. And so we have done that. We've done all the filings with Worcester and everything else like that. So we don't have any big fancy plans, but there's the pond, and I've got other backup to delineate where the boundaries are. This is on a separate lot.
It's all right.
And the lot is about 9.97 acres, just under an acre. And previously in 2014, the septic system was put in, and we queried Ducharme and Dillis, was the wetland had it changed, if they had flagged it, and it's still the same.
Right, they went out and issued a letter
Yeah,
at
which I
the
have
request
in the packet.
to just confirm it.
And I don't know, do I need to tell them anything else?
Do you have the septic plan?
What's this building?
Or the
Oh,
picture of the septic
salt
plan?
No, it used to be the salt box. The Quilted Crow.
This is the
bean.
former salt box. now
Oh, is it? Okay, all
Bolton
right,
Bean.
all right, all right.
Oh.
And I have
It
the,
took me a minute too. I had to
So
figure out, like, where's
existing
66?
building
Like, I don't
is
see the old
Bolton.
But that was,
Like,
isn't that already there? Is there a septic
Yes,
system?
so,
Yes.
so all we're
Yeah, we're just-
showing on, so I asked
Okay.
him to bring forward the septic plan because
Okay.
it shows.
this is a
the offsets.
miniaturization of the
Okay,
as-built.
I was thinking that was the info.
No.
I'm good, I'm good.
And then this is Ducharme and Dillis' letter
I'm
saying that
good, I'm good,
everything is the same.
I'm good.
So all they're proposing to do is put in dry hydrant and then clean out, basically trim the vegetation around, on the berm and around the pond, and then clean out the area so that it meets, just like they've cleaned out other fire ponds. And the reason why it's a notice of intent, because DEP has requested after,
This is existing pond.
last year, they had no problem with the work being done,
Fire
but they just,
suppression.
as a formality, have requested that any
And use
new
that as a
fire
fire
pond be formalized through notice of intent, which I'm still waiting to hear back about that list. And the ones that are existing with the dry hydrants and things, those can still be issued under an RDA.
What is a dry hydrant?
What is a dry hydrant?
Yeah.
Happy
Jack
to-
has them.
So the fire pond has to be filled with water, right?
Yeah.
So it's so, and
There's a pond there?
Yeah.
yeah, the same thing is on the corner
You
of
see it.
Main Street that you drive by. It's a potential, actually, I think that one's a certified vernal pool, so the habitat area is still there.
Yeah.
It still exists. And then in the happenstance that they need to use the